You might need to bring that closer. Say it again, Ed. I don't think
It's not coming out. It's not going out that far.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me? I have to say that someone got a text message from my wife earlier and said that nobody could hear me out here. So I'm going to have to speak up louder. I always do what she tells me to do. So, okay. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Sebastian City Council for January 24th. If you would please rise for a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance held by Vice Mayor Dixon. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Dodd.
Here.
Vice Mayor Dixon.
Here.
Councilmember Jones.
Here.
Councilmember McPartlin.
Okay, Council, as far as agenda modifications,
Mr.
Mayor,
Hold on.
she didn't finish.
I was looking for Councilmember McPartlin. Is he on Zoom or is he in transit?
He was,
He's on Zoom, but he hasn't unmuted.
Okay.
I'm here, I'm driving there, so I'm present.
Okay. And then Councilmember Nunn.
here.
Thank you.
I'm going to have to bring this closer. My wife says I'm still not hearable.
That's
so,
better.
Yeah, still can't hear me out there.
That's better.
So, yeah, that's better? Okay. Agenda modifications. I'd like to add item C under proclamations, which is the human trafficking proclamation. If anyone has any issues with that?
Nope.
Does anyone else have any agenda modifications they'd like to make? No? Okay. I think I'm not gonna do it as a agenda modification, but when we get down to the point where Mr. Benton is introducing the new Director of Parks and Recreation, he's also going to introduce the new Assistant City Clerk that we have. We're very happy to have both of those positions filled. So, okay. And would the Vice Mayor like to read the brief announcements?
Sure. This Saturday, January 27th, is Barb Snow's 4th annual Sweet Tea Sip and Stroll at Riverview Park from 9:30 to 5. Sunday, the fun continues from 10 to 4. Friday, February 2nd, the Chamber of Commerce concert in the park. It's Johnny and the Blaze from 5:30 to 8. And then Saturday, February 3rd, is the Four Chaplain ceremony at Riverview Park at 11 a.m.
Mayor Dodd, before you go forward, Mr. Shapiro is on here and we didn't call him yet. He's here and he's ready to go. That was before the introduction of the new officers and the brief announcement.
For the SOC day. We'll get him up in a second.
Okay.
Okay. I would like to add one thing to the announcements.
Sure.
We received a letter today that indicates that the Sebastian has once again received the certification as a Tree City USA. It doesn't sound like a whole lot, Tree City USA, but it's very good for the city that we received that designation. So I'd like to let everybody know that that's taking place. And then, Mr. Shapiro, would you like to come forth and provide a...
Appreciate that very much. Hi, everyone, and thank you all for having us here today. By the way, I was just noticing the signs celebrating the 100th anniversary. When we first moved to Florida 16 years ago, this is where we moved to. We lived right down the road, and I just hope people appreciate the wonderful city of Sebastian and what it is to be able to live in a place like this. I love this place. Anyhow, as I put on my eyeballs, I am Barry Shapiro, and I started 6 years ago the Vero Beach Sock Drive with very small expectations. The goal was to collect 200 or 300 pairs of socks to support a charity that a friend of mine runs in New Jersey for the homeless, but instead we collected over 1,000 pairs of socks. And so we decided that, well, maybe we could divide it up and spread the love. So we gave it to 3 different charities, and they all said, "You're doing this again?" And so we said, okay. So now, last year, this is our 6th year. Last year, we collected 18,855 pairs of socks that we delivered to the homeless and the needy through 13 different charities. This year, so far, 14 charities have signed up to be with us. It's become a big deal. Socks are the #1 requested item in homeless shelters, socks and underwear. And if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. So, you know, if you live in the woods or on the streets, if you don't have a place to wash your clothes, this is a very important item. It's been said that at any given time, and this statistic, by the way, may not be accurate because it's from some time ago, but I always remember it when I was doing a film for the city, that at any given time there are as many as 1,200 or more homeless people living in the woods in Indian River County. It's probably much more than that today. So the problem is getting worse, it's not getting better. And you might say, well, what can we do about it? On a small ground level, this is what we're trying to do to help. We are not a 501c3. We don't take money at all. We only take socks and whatever else people throw in the collection box, and we distribute them through these charities. We now have boxes that are from Fort Pierce up to Sebastian in about 42 different locations. We will be giving out, as I said, to 14 or more different charities this year. By the way, there's a box right here in the lobby of City Hall right here at all times, this one. And we have a few events. On February 11th, we have a special reception at the Gallery Veritas in downtown Vero Beach that's being sponsored by Francine Figlio at Keller Williams Real Estate. On February 16th, we have our sock hop at Walking Tree Brewery, which is a lot of fun. You can win prizes, you can dance, and you can drink beer. And then on January 30th, we have our annual Cops and Socks and Coffee morning at Coffee House downtown, Coffee House 1420 in downtown Vero. Anyone in Sebastian interested in doing an event with us, we're more than happy to come up and do one with you. We could not accomplish this without incredible support from the business community and the religious organizations in the county. That includes drop-off locations at C.J. Cannon's at the airport, Gordon Chiropractic, Alexander Insurance, Grace Lutheran Church, the Loyal Order of Moose, the Indian River County IG Center, Hometown News in Fort Pierce, Marine Bank and Trust here in Sebastian and all their other locations. Old Dixie Barbershop, the Green Marlin Restaurant, 14 Bones, Mr. Smoke's Boutique, Vero Beach City Hall, Sebastian City Hall, the Indian River County Administration Building. There are boxes in all of those places. The aforementioned Coffee House 1420, Sean Ryan's Pub, the United Against Poverty Center, the Presbyterian Church, Holy Cross Catholic Church, Waldo's, Engel and Volker's Real Estate right here, the Hen House, Pac Mail on Beachland, Pac Mart in Sebastian, Christie's Gym, Orange Theory, the Vero Beach Art Club, Temple Beth Shalom, Pinch Penny Pools at the Center for Spiritual Care, the Idlewild Candle Company, and right down the road over by I-95 here, Sunshine Travel RV Park. They always give us a lot of socks. So we especially want to thank White Glove Moving and Storage, who supply 50 boxes every year for us, and ABC Printing, who does all of our printing. It's very important to acknowledge all of the people that do contribute. Our list of locations is growing. We have a website, which is www.verobeachsockdrive.com. If you go to that site, there's an Amazon button. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, if you're in your PJs and you want something good to do, you can go on there, hit the Amazon button, buy some socks, and they come right to us. So that's basically why I'm here. Also on the box, there's a QR code. You can use the QR code, and that'll also take you to the website. And there's Bob with the box. Yes, I am. And there he is.
We need donations, don't we?
Yeah. So we thought we'd maybe get a picture with you guys and That's why we brought socks, so if you don't mind,
That's
we
fine.
love that, and we can post it on our website.
Are we going to play basketball with them, or are we?
Hey, yeah, all right, why not? There you go, I love it.
You want to come down here? You guys want to come down here? Come down this way. Bring your socks.
Turn it so I can see, ready?
Yeah, but what if we miss? Is that going to be on camera too?
Yeah, we're doing video.
Oh.
Oh, okay. So
No, there's no video. You count us down.
Oh! Hey!
It's a perfect finish shot.
I used to play golf.
Perfect.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you all, appreciate it.
Okay, on the next thing on the agenda, Mr. Benton, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I just want to take an opportunity. We've had some recent staff additions, and one I want to introduce is our new Parks and Recreation Director, Richard Blankenship. Richard, if you could just stand up and wave to everyone. So Richard comes to Sebastian with over 30 years of Parks and Recreation experience. He has over 15 years as a department director at the city level, county level, and also for the Seminole Indian Tribe on a state level, overseeing the 7 recreation areas on the 7 tribal grounds. So I just want to take a moment to introduce him. Feel free to stop by City Hall and introduce yourselves to Richard. Excited to have him on board and excited as we continue to move the city forward in Parks and Recreation. So welcome, Richard, to the city. Second introduction that we'll have tonight is our new Deputy City Clerk. Her name is Catherine Walker. Catherine, if you could stand up. So Catherine joins the city. She has a wealth of experience. A lot of her experiences up north in Delaware. She worked for the Forest Service in Delaware, Department of Transportation, and also for the State Fire Marshal's office as well up there. And she relocated to Florida here in Sebastian, and she does have some recent experience as a project administrator for a local construction company. So I want to welcome Catherine to the team as well as our Deputy City Clerk and look forward to working closely with her as we go forward. So welcome, Catherine. And third one that we've had, and we'll bring her to a future meeting to formally introduce her. We have a new procurement manager here in the city, Jessica Graham, and she joins us with a wealth of experience in procurement in many places across the state. And so we'll bring her back and formally introduce her so everyone can get to meet her as well at a future meeting. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Bob just showed up, if you didn't get him. Okay. All right. This next item was the one that I added. I had the pleasure at a Florida League of Cities meeting to see a presentation done by the Florida Faith Alliance United United to Fight Child Sex Trafficking. And needless to say, I was set back and amazed at the complexity of the problem of sex trafficking in the United States. We're number 2, I believe, to India in the world for sex trafficking. We're not talking about sex trafficking of 20-year-old girls. We're talking about 10 and 12-year-old girls and boys that are brought into the sex trade. So we're going to show, this group has put together some training materials. We're going to show a video now that it was put together by this group to be played in school systems, in the schools, so that kids can kind of get an introduction to this issue. So I'd like for you to watch this now, if you would, please. Go ahead.
This awareness video is to educate you. We want you to be equipped, and above all, don't take the bait.
Hi, my name is Hannah Connolly. I am a graduate from Martin County High School and founder of the first Human Trafficking Awareness Club at my school. I am here to equip you and give you the tools needed to be protected from predators and traffickers. It is so important to know that all children and teens are at risk. And for your sake and the sake of your friends, this may save a life. Did you know that the average age of girls victimized in trafficking is between 12 and 14 years old? And for a boy, it is 11. Florida is the #3 state in the nation for reported cases of human trafficking. So who is the trafficker? It could be a boyfriend, a gang, an online friend, a neighbor, or even a family member. If you have full access to social media, that means that social media has full access to you. YouTube and many other apps can be used to look through your phone, into your home, and contact you. Dating apps are a large platform that traffickers tend to use. 150,000 brand new escort ads are posted online every day. Children are bought and sold through these dating apps constantly. These are the top games that traffickers use. A trafficker will take up to 2 years to convince a child that they are the same age and want to be a friend. Sexting while still a minor is illegal. The reason it's illegal is that these images may be intercepted by or distributed to someone other than who it was originally sent to, compromising the privacy and safety of the original sender. Someone could begin threatening you that if you don't send more graphic pictures of yourself and your body, then they will expose you at school, to your family, and all over social media. Sexting and sextortion is the fastest growing gateway to trafficking.
Sexting and sextortion doesn't just happen locally in our communities. These crimes can extend not only to other counties, but also other states.
But just remember this, don't take the bait.
What would it take to bait you? If you have a dream, they're gonna promise to make it happen. Maybe you wanna hear, I'm proud of you. Maybe you'd like someone to say, you're beautiful. The predator will promise to take you wherever you wanna go. So the important thing is, don't take the bait.
The important thing to remember is don't take the bait.
Hey, if someone wants to show you porn, don't take the bait.
Don't take the bait. Don't take the bait.
Don't take the bait. Don't take the bait.
Don't take the bait.
Okay, you don't have to clap if you don't want to, because it's kind of depressing to watch that, but it was very well put together. Okay. Can you hear me now? I changed microphones. Good. Okay. So I have a proclamation for Kelly Ruhlman. Okay. Yeah. For the Recognizing Human Trafficking Awareness. Would you turn around, please? And the proclamation is, whereas human trafficking is the second largest criminal industry in the world and is a form of modern-day slavery in which human beings are controlled, abused, and exploited by profit through labor and sex. And whereas human trafficking is the fastest-growing crime in the world, and children have become the primary target of traffickers and predators, as reported by the Florida State Alliance to End Human Trafficking in 2022. And whereas Florida ranks as #3 in the nation for human trafficking hotline calls, while human trafficking and child exploitation online is happening in our backyards. And whereas local agencies, organizations, businesses, and faith leaders are connecting to bring an end to the enslavement and abuse of victims through awareness and trips to local law enforcement. And whereas South Florida Alliance and Catch the Wave of Hope are working to alert the city of Sebastian to the immediate crisis and need for all to become educated and promote services and therapy for victims. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed to the Sebastian City Council that we recognize Florida Faith Alliance, Catch the Wave of Hope, and other local organizations working to eliminate human trafficking. Together, we can stop this travesty through awareness, education, restoration, and legislation adopted this 24th day of January and signed by all 5 city council members. Okay. You have someone, did they get a picture? Yes. Okay. Nice to meet you. Come on up.
Yes, we'd like to invite you. Yeah, a couple more coming.
Did you get them?
Oh.
Oh, we have more people. Thank you.
Thank you.
You get it? Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Fisher. All right, council. I believe we are now into public input. If there's anyone from the public who would like to address the council on any item that is not on the current agenda, would you come forward, please? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Damian Gilliams, 1623 U.S. Highway 1, Sebastian, Florida, 32958. I think I touched a nerve the last time I was here, and I want to thank a few people. First of all, your city manager is unbelievably Class A gentleman, and his new staff that he's surrounding himself with, Alex and the team, have been assisting me and my family with my business for 32 years, right there at the park where I see all the homeless. As a matter of fact, I was so touched by the presentation. Our business is going to donate the first check because we see all the homeless in the park for $500. Okay? We feel how important it is to take care of our people in our community. And I want to share something that happened within the past 7 days with this community. I was at the county commission meeting yesterday, getting an update and presenting to them about my dilemma of not having the sewer line run to my property back when they ran phase 1, septic to sewer. When I came here in front of you, Mr. Mayor, the CRA, and asked for grant money, and I hired an engineer, and I spent thousands of dollars with engineering and surveying. I got money from the city, and I could not hook up. And there's stuff that's been going out, and I'm not going to mention that newspaper. I'm sure he's here, the blog, how he misrepresented what was going on. So fast forward, here I am again, appealing to my county commissioners and not my city council members. Mr. Joe Fletcher, Susan Adams, the people of the North County. I had the county send down people today immediately to start extending the line of the sewer system to my business of 32 years. I thank them. Sean, Jesse, the whole team at the Utilities Department. Mr. Bob McPartland, who was there at the meeting yesterday, giving me encouragement. Thank you, Mr. McPartland. Thank you. I appreciate that. But I'm sad to say that one of your members turned me into the Department of Environmental Protection, not knowing what was going on. So what I did on the second engineer that I hired, I brought him a set of plans, and all he had to do was pick up the phone and get an update, because your building department has an application for a permit for right-of-way access so we can hook up properly. But no, Mr. Nunn turned us into the department. This is what I call running businesses out of town, Mr. Mayor. He had to turn me into the Department of Environmental Protection, who then turned it into the Department of Health, who then showed up at my property. And he said, Mr. Gilliams, I apologize. I don't see anything here. I'm sorry about the politics in this community and how they treat you. Mr. Trevis was a gentleman. And I said, well, I will give you an update at our next meeting. We pulled all our permits. The county is assisting us in getting things done to protect our environment. But the city and our representation are failing us. And that's why businesses, you got vacancies all over US Highway 1. This is called political payback. And it's shameful we can't rise above the fray. So I will be doing an open op-ed for the TC Palm Press Journal, and I will share my story so that this whole community could understand about your family, Mr. Dodd, your nephew, and the 19th Circuit, and how you guys are trying to take me, my family down. It is so shameful that you can't raise above. I did my time. I did it honorably, but you just won't let up. You won't let up on my family. And you smile there, and you should be ashamed of yourself. And your team, Mr. Nunn, I'm sure you directed him to go ahead and turn me in. So here's your drawings. I'll leave it with the clerk. No. You can do better, Mr. Mayor. Your team can do better. I want to thank your staff and your city manager. God bless you.
Anyone else? All right. Anyone else want to address the council on an item that's not on the agenda? Okay. I would just say that we don't respond to public input. And, but I will say that if you do the crime, you do the time, quit blaming other people for your crime. Okay? Now, we're on to, I'm going to recess the city council meeting, and I'm going to call to order the Community Redevelopment Agency meeting. First item of agenda is approving the minutes from December 13th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
The motion is second. Anyone have any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We're now looking at an approval for the design for the Sebastian Lagoon Walk Cossacks. Cossacks, is that how you say that?
Kiosk.
Kiosk.
Did I say it right?
Kiosk.
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 Kiosk. I need that vodka from the Russians, you know, with the Cossacks. Okay. Mr. Williams, yes.
Yeah, I can get it started, Mr. Mayor. So back in July of 2020, City Council approved a signage master plan. It included our entrance signs into the city, our park signage that's now consistently throughout the city. And it also, at that time, we did request funding and we got approval for funding for a kiosk that would go along the Indian River Lagoon Walk, right along Indian River Drive. Beautiful walk from the southern limits on Indian River Drive of the city all the way to the northern limits. So with that, at that time, we did not have a formal design for the kiosk. So now that we've advanced far enough and we've completed all of our signage throughout the city, the kiosk was the next step. And our consultant, SignStar, developed the kiosks that are before you tonight. The purchase amount did not meet the threshold to have to come. However, we wanted to get some input from council or the CRA board for this item and get public comments on these as well. These kiosks will be in 3 locations along the Lagoon Walk. And we just request any comments tonight, any changes that you would request, and at that time we'll go forward with the kiosk design.
Okay. Why don't we open this up to public input before we discuss it? Does anyone from the public like to talk about this item?
Mr. Mayor, do we have something to display up here so everybody can see what we have?
I don't know. Do you have it?
We don't?
No. We'll get them up. Okay, Brian, while you're standing there, why don't you kind of show like where the QR codes are going to be? And in our document, if you can't see this, there are QR codes on these for bringing to your phone or your device a lagoon walking map, city parks, amenities breakdown, conservation trails, Indian River Lagoon map, sustainable Sebastian website, recycling website, local landscaping, ordinance, swales, canals, and stormwater breakdown. So you can actually get to those by scanning the QR code on these signs. It's only shown on the Main Street sign, but I'm assuming it's going to be on all of them.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And also the maps on the kiosks actually also lay out the walking trail, which is 1.5 miles, or roughly 1.5 miles from the Riverview Park to the end of the walking trail up the river, which is really nice. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So just for clarification, we've got the map up on the screen now. The southern end down where it says "You Are Here" will be down near Riverview Park. That'll be the first location. That's kind of the southern limit, or that is the southern limit of Indian River Drive within the city. So the first kiosk will be located there. The second kiosk will be in the Main Street boat ramp area. That's approximately 3/4 of a mile from the southern limit of the city. And then the northern kiosk will be located up near Jackson Street at the northern end of the city. So for a total of 1.85 mile walk from the southern limit to the northern limit. And as mentioned previously by the mayor, the QR codes, here's kind of an example of what those will look like. And any other questions, and I apologize, we did not have these ready.
Okay.
But we can make it work.
And the design of these is consistent with our wayfinding, it's called wayfinding initiative, where we actually have new signs on all the parks and so forth.
That's correct. This design is consistent with all the other signage throughout the community, so this will be the last 3 pieces to make this program whole.
Okay. So now we've done that, let's see if there's any public comment from anyone. Does anyone in the public like to comment on this? All right, seeing none. Council, what's your pleasure? Who wants to go first?
I like them. Looking at them, I think it's great that, you know, the width does not impede the view. They're about, if I remember, it's about 3 inches wide, 4 inches max. And also, in addition to that, because of the way that they're placed, the direct sun, you know, sunrise and sunset, it's hitting the sides, not the main sides of the sign, so that should help with the longevity. I like the information. A lot of people enjoy walking the river for exercise, in addition to taking in the view, so giving those mile points are also good for people to know how far they're walking or biking. I think it's great.
Okay, anyone else have any comments?
No, Mr. Mayor, I would recommend that we recommend the city council, send this to city council or make a decision.
That's a motion?
I don't think we have to make a motion on this. I'm completely not sure, because we're just making a recommendation to the council. From this point, it would be my position that we make the recommendation to council for approval.
All right. I'll second. Councilmember, Board Member Jones's motion was that we recommend to the city council that they approve this.
Yes.
And I'll second that. It gets confusing when you got the one board that has to recommend to the council, and it's all the same people.
Mm-hmm.
So, any other comments, questions? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same.
Do we want any public comment? Anybody have?
I already asked, no one come forward.
We went through that.
Yeah.
Aye.
Okay, now we're moving on to item 8C, which is a grant approval for the Working Waterfront.
Thank you, Chairman Dodd. So what we're requesting tonight from the CRA Board is a recommendation to City Council for approval of grant administration services with Coastal Wide LLC for the Working Waterfront Expansion Phase 1. We received a grant from Find, a matching grant that the CRA will fund $60,000. The Find grant will contribute another $60,000. and working with Coastal Wide on this that will, assist us with the design, permitting, and engineering services for this extension at our existing working waterfront. It'll provide additional dockage and area for commercial fishing vessels to come in and dock, offload, and then also kind of house their boats there during the important times of the year. Commercial fishing is an important part of the city of Sebastian, and we want to make sure that we're able to maintain that with this, and I think this expansion of that dock will provide those opportunities to the commercial fishermen.
And I think it's also important to recognize that there are some aquatic businesses related to commercial fishing that are on a dock system that is on a piece of property just south of our working waterfront. That property is on the market. Those businesses will not be able to stay at those docks when that property sells. So we're also making sure we can expand this system so we give them a place to move their aquatic business to at the point in time in which that property sells. So at the same time that we're going to provide additional dockage for the fishermen, we're also going to salvage some clam businesses and some other things that are at that second dock stations, on those second docks. Do you have something you want to say, Director?
I was just going to add that it should be clarified that this is for design and permitting. So this is the first step before we move into construction. So just as a point of clarification for that, and also Coastal White is here if you have any questions.
Yeah, okay. Does anyone have any questions for the staff or for anybody else? Okay, then I'm going to open up to the public. Anyone in the public like to address this item? Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Nicolette Mariano. I'm the founder and owner of Treasure Coast Shellfish, which is your only oyster farm and sustainable oyster aquaculture farm in Sebastian. So I just wanted to clarify when you're saying other industries that it is for aquaculture business as well, and that it is included as well for our nursery setups to be at that location as well. Is that correct?
Yes, as far as I know. Yes, she's shaking her head, yes.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
Okay, sure. Anyone else in the public? All right, council, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chair, I would like to make a recommendation to City Council to approve grant administration services in Coastal White.
Second.
Third.
We have a recommendation and a second. Any other comments? We'll need no, the council will need a voice vote. I think we can actually do it would be a roll call. We can do a voice vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Now I'm going to close the community redevelopment area and go on back to the city council. We have the consent agenda. Would anyone like to pull an item from the consent agenda? Then what's the pleasure of the council?
I'll make a recommendation to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
You seconded?
Yes.
We have a motion and a second to approve items 10A and B. No money involved in that, so we'll take a voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, we have no committee reports?
Yes, we do.
We do?
Yes. Mine.
Yours? Okay.
Beach and Shores.
Go ahead.
All right. Do we have that queued up on the screen there, or do I need to? I am the city's representative for the Beach and Shoreline Preservation Committee, or for Indian River County. And there's some things that are going on that don't directly affect us now as far as the beach renourishment and all of that. But there are some things that affect us, and part of that is the derelict vessels that we have in our waterways. And, it sounds easy, at first when I got on that committee, I thought, why aren't we removing those boats if they're derelict or whatever? It's a long process. It takes a lot of money in order to make that happen. But coming up here at the end of this year, we're going to have 4 vessels removed from this area. And I'll show you, this is one of them there. That's a vessel. Some of you that's on the waterway, you may recognize these boats or wherever they are. Here's a second sailboat that's here. And let me see. I can't see that well. So this is a 25-footer. All right, so this particular one is a 25-foot Islander yacht, and that's listed as DV3 on the original chart that I had up. Here's another one, and this one is 31. That one is DV2, and on the map, that's up the St. Sebastian River where that particular vessel is. And here's the last one that's off of one of the spoil islands out here. So we know that, and you know, we have these vessels, and we work, the county and all of us that volunteer on those committees as well, we work very hard to make sure that we follow the laws and the rules as it relates to removing vessels and stuff. So it's a really long process. A lot of legal has to be all approved by Fish and Wildlife and everything else. So it's a lot of time, but we're hopeful to get these out by the end of the year if things go the way they're planned right now. So that's my update on that committee.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we're now moving on to public hearings. The first public hearing is a quasi-judicial public hearing. I'm going to open the hearing at this point in time, and I'm going to ask the attorney to read the ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a quasi-judicial public hearing, a resolution number R-23-28, a resolution of the City of Sebastian, Indian River County, Florida, approving the preliminary plat for a project known as Cross Creek Lake Estates Addition, a 35-lot residential subdivision consisting of 24.43 acres located adjacent and south and west of Cross Creek Lake Estates and Yearling Trail, providing for conflicts herewith, providing for scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Would the staff like to make a, hold on, let me make sure I got this right. Okay, would the council please indicate any ex parte communications that they've had? No one? No one? Okay. Would the city clerk swear in those who intend to provide testimony? Anyone who intends to address the council related to this item, please stand and be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm that the factual statements and the factual representation which you are about to give or present during this public hearing will be truthful and accurate? Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, now it's time for the applicant to make a presentation.
It's always good to go first. It's always good to go first.
Yeah. Is that mic turned on? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor Dodd, council members, staff. My name is Warren Dill. I'm a local attorney with an office in the city of Sebastian. And I'm here tonight with Dr. Fisher. I'm here with our engineer, Joe Scholke, with Scholke, Bidlin, Stoddard. And we're asking you tonight to approve our preliminary subdivision plat for Cross Creek Addition. I'll generally refer to it as the addition because it's simpler than saying all that. And when I talk about Cross Creek Lake Estates, which is the parent subdivision, I will refer to that as Cross Creek tonight. The addition is a relatively small piece of property. It's about 24 acres. And we're putting 35 lots on that land. So our density is 1.43 units per acre. Relatively low. Your comp plan and zoning ordinance allows up to 3 units per acre for this property. Any of you that know Dr. Fisher and his developments, he is, to my knowledge, he's never gone anywhere close to the maximum density that's allowed, and this one certainly falls well below 3 units per acre. Staff has provided their usual thorough review of the project, and I think it's a fair review. We have a difference of opinion on a particular issue, but I still think their approach to the subject matter has been extremely reasonable and fair. Staff has concluded that the subdivision can meet the requirements, all requirements of your land development regulations, which is nice to have a staff recommendation.
The Planning and Zoning Commission previously approved the preliminary plat in September of last year. Took us a little bit of time to get here, but we're here tonight. I'm going to give you a real brief history of this development. When Cross Creek Lake Estates, that's the parent parcel, was annexed into the city in 2004, the city at that time had a fairly aggressive annexation benefit program. It was required by anybody that wanted to bring property into the city to demonstrate to the city or city council a benefit that that annexation would give to the city that was in addition to the normal things like extra taxes and stores and shops if it's a commercial use. So our project happened to be on Power Line Road, which was a minimal road at that time. It was not paved. And Dr. Fisher's annexation benefit was that he was going to pave Power Line Road from Barber Street to the entrance of Cross Creek Lake Estates, which made sense to us. The council felt he should go a little bit beyond that. They asked him to pave Power Line Road from Barber Street all the way to the southern boundary of our property, which was approximately, I don't know, 1,500, 2,000 feet. So it added a significant cost to the project, but Dr. Fisher did that. In 2004 now, we were annexed in 2003 and 4. In 2004, the preliminary plat for Cross Creek Lake Estates was before the city council in 2004. When we presented, this is important, when we presented our preliminary plat to the city, we had a complete second access on Power Line, on Shakespeare. Complete, just like the main entrance. It was at the northwest corner of our property and Shakespeare. Had that plat gone through, or preliminary plat been approved, we wouldn't have any issues, or you wouldn't have any issues, or all the neighbors would have no issues with us. But there were some residents from Shakespeare that showed up at that meeting. They've been very consistent and very effective, I might add, on their own, without legal representation. They convinced the council to deny our use of Shakespeare. Okay. We redesigned it. And the council gave us what was called, or is called still, an adjustment to your subdivision regs that require 2 access points for development. Council gave us that. We didn't ask for it. Well, we did ask for it because we had to once we couldn't have 2 access points. The council, the city, mandated that we could have an emergency access and count that as our second entrance. So we relied upon your predecessors, and we put that emergency access in, thinking, okay, the issue's gone now. We've got our 2 access points. We don't have to worry about this anymore. Another little item. When Cross Creek Lake Estates, when Cross Creek Addition came in the following year, in 2005, Dr. Fisher had to provide another annexation benefit. We really should have included it in the first one, but we didn't think it was that significant. So he had to provide a second benefit to the city. Now the city has required him, to construct Power Line Road all the way to County Road 510. So without Cross Creek and Dr. Fisher, you wouldn't have, well, I don't think you would have a paved road today, but you might have got enough pressure on the county commissioners to do it for you. But it was in their early
because of Little Cross Creek. It was in there because of 24 acres. A minimal development had to put that expense on the books. We always intended, it was always intended that Cross Creek addition would be a phase within Cross Creek. Why do we assume that or intend that? A couple of reasons. One, it's landlocked. You can't get to it without going through Cross Creek. There's no way. It's logical, it had to be part of Cross Creek. Number two, the Declaration of Covenants, which is the constitution for a subdivision, sets forth all the rules, everything you can do and can't do. That was prepared and recorded in 2013. That specifically addressed Cross Creek addition in that constitution for Cross Creek subdivision. And it provided that it was owned by Dr. Fisher, that it would come into Cross Creek at some point in the future. In 2018, our Constitution, our Declaration of Covenants, was amended. And at that point, the addition officially was added to the deed restrictions, to the covenants. And at that point, the residents, the future residents of the addition received all the benefits and all the responsibilities and all the obligations of everybody else in Cross Creek. Always intended to be one and the same development, on our part anyway. In 2019 and 20, we got into a lot of discussion with the city because we were preparing our preliminary plat, which is here tonight in 24. We wanted to pin down the status of Cross Creek addition. Our position was pretty simple and clear. It was a phase. We always considered it to be another phase. The city's position was, it's not a phase, it's a whole brand new subdivision. Why? Because we didn't show it on the original preliminary plat for Cross Creek back in 2004. A regrettable error on our part. An error that has consumed hundreds of hours of staff time, our time, and quite a bit of your time. Had we done that, we wouldn't even be here tonight. That would have been approved. It was concluded back in 18 and 19 that we could use the main entrance. We have to have two new entrances now because we're a new subdivision. The whole argument starts over again. Now we're a new subdivision, landlocked, by the way, but we're still a new subdivision. We have to meet all the new requirements, including those that came along after we were in the city. We could use the main entrance on Power Line, but we could not use the emergency access that your predecessor required us to put in and say that's our second access. We couldn't use it. We had to have another access. And that started the whole thing with the residents of the neighborhood again. We were going to put in, well, at some point they wanted us to put in a full access, but that really was not a serious discussion. They really wanted a secondary access. Same thing that is in the agenda tonight in there. We didn't want to do it. We've never asked to do it. We never felt it was necessary. And the residents in the area certainly didn't think it was necessary. I never did understand why we could use the main entrance, but we couldn't use the second entrance. We had to have a third entrance. And that's what is being asked for tonight, a third entrance. I give credit to the staff on this item. Tonight, before you in the staff report on pages 62 and 63, if you want to look at it, 62 and 63, 63 in particular. The staff gives you three options to resolve this thorny issue of access. The first option is to construct a full-blown second entrance on Shakespeare that would be available and used 24/7. I don't hear much support from the back of the room on that. The second option would be to put in a regular engineered emergency access on the Shakespeare. And the third option, the one we like, is to treat our preliminary plat tonight as if it were a phase, which was, on our part, always intended to be a phase. Staff has given you that option if you would like to choose it to make our preliminary plat or to declare our preliminary plat to be a phase. We have 5 reasons why we think it should be a phase. First of all, given the history of the property, how long it's been in the city, annexation benefits, and the fact that it's landlocked, and there's no way to get to this property without going through Cross Creek. And the deed restrictions, since day one, have contemplated this as a phase. Number 2, this is probably more important to you. The residents of Shakespeare, Lands Fair, Memorial, and Lighthouse do not want us to have an access on Shakespeare. And we don't want to have an access on Shakespeare. We've only been showing this because of a requirement. Number 3, prior to city council action, the prior city council action in denying us the right to use Shakespeare should not be now used against us. Your predecessor said can't do it. It wouldn't be fair for you to say today, do it. I mean, who can we rely upon? I guess times change, right? Councils change. We realize that. Number 4, we already have 2 access points. You're only required to have 2 if you read the code. Main entrance and emergency access entrance. And number 5, also significant, you recently sealed the fate of Shakespeare when you approved the River Oaks Preserve subdivision with the clear understanding for the residents in the neighborhood that there would never be access on using Shakespeare to County Road 512. That just took the sale out of any benefit to having access over to Shakespeare to get to County Road 512. So tonight, and I'm concluding, we respectfully request a couple of things. One is that you actually approve Resolution 23-28, which is in your agenda package. Approving the preliminary plat. But, always a but, there's a couple of deletions we would like to make from that resolution. One would be the construction of a secondary emergency access that's in the resolution. That was not our preference, but the benefit of being the city is you get to put your preference in the resolution, and we don't get to draft a resolution and put our preference in it. So we would ask you to declare us to be a phase of Cross Creek, delete the requirement for the second access, because if we're a phase, there's no requirement to do that, period. That's simple. And then also, this is a little kicker that I initially didn't give a lot of thought to, but I've changed my mind. And that is the recreational fee that you have. Had we amended our plat for Cross Creek, made ourselves a phase, we wouldn't be subject to this requirement, which was not on the books when we came in. I think it's only been there for 2 or 3 years in the comp plan. I could be wrong about that. I didn't go back and try to get the effective date of it, but it hasn't been there that many years. The requirement to give the city for recreational purposes the value of 1 acre if you can't provide land within your development for recreation. Or, in our case, we can't provide land for recreation for the public. For the public. The requirement in the code talks about public access. This is a private development. And I think, I'm getting off course here, but council and staff ought to give that some consideration for existing developments that have private roads. You can't expect them, if they want to add a phase to it, you can't expect them to open that private development up to the public. I don't think our residents that are here that live in Cross Creek would think very highly of us if we tried to do that. Staff has tried to work around that with us. They've suggested some options, but it results in bringing the public close to within the development, which is unacceptable for us. It's a private development. It costs the city no money to run that development. You don't pay for the roads. Yes, you might have law enforcement go out there. You might have fire department go out there. But as a rule, we're self-supporting. And the way it's designed, it was always designed, we can't provide public access. Had we started fresh today with 175, 80 acres, okay, I agree, we could probably do something along those lines. It doesn't work when you have an existing development like ours. And we have, for 35 lots, we're required to have 0.35 acres, 1/3 of an acre we're required to have for recreation. We have 1.82 acres for recreation, just within our addition, not counting a 25-acre lake, Crystal Lake, that's available to these people as well with an internal public boat ramp for the residents of Cross Creek. But it's not open to the public. And because we can't do that, we don't want to do that, we have to rely upon another provision in your code that lets us buy our way out with your approval and pay you for the price of 1 acre of land. Now, I don't know where, I looked at that today pretty carefully. It doesn't say where you go look for the property or, what is supposed to be around. I mean, is it going to be on the intercoastal? I mean, on the lagoon? Wow. Or is it going to be way west of town? I don't know. That probably needs to be given some thought in the future. Anyway, I'm not going to take any more of your time. We respectfully request that you approve the preliminary plat for Cross Creek. Approve the resolution you have, make those 2 deletions, the requirement to put in a secondary access and the requirement to pay a recreational fee subject to the cost of 1 acre of land. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
All right, would you say no, please? We don't, no. I know everybody likes to applaud, but we typically try to not do that during a meeting. It might sway my mind on what to do. Would the staff like to present their findings, please?
Yes, thank you, Council. We'd like to do some things that are required by code, enter some information into the record, and then I would like to kind of respond to some of the issues that Mr. Dill had brought up to kind of fill you in on what's actually in the code and why some of it is applied to our subdivisions. This is the same information that was given to our Planning and Zoning Commission at their meeting in September. We'd like to enter this into the quasi-judicial record. Just quickly to go over our staff report on some pertinent information. As Mr. Dill explained, this is on 24 acres. There is 35 single lots, which is important, that number, and it comes to 1.43 units per dwelling unit. The smallest lot, the minimum lot is 14,200, so these lot sizes proposed are larger than what's in the Sebastian Highlands. We have gone in, our staff report is pretty much a verbatim of what the items that are required in our code, and so we go through those to let you know that they have been provided to show you that the subdivision does meet it does meet all of the requirements that are required for subdivision, except for a few things that we need to discuss. Traffic impact analysis, they're required to give us a statement. Based on the number of lots in there, it will generate 330 average daily trips. The threshold is 400 to do a full traffic analysis, so that was not required for this addition. Our staff report also went into a few other matters that I would like to also go over. As a history, Mr. Dill did bring up some points that, yes, in 2013, 2014, they did record a document that was going to take these 24 acres and add it into what he calls their constitution. But again, to remember that constitution, their covenants and deed restrictions is for their HOA and subdivision, but approving it through that does not make it in compliant with city code. So because it was added to that, that doesn't necessarily mean that it met city codes, went through that process. And our code definitely states that if you're going to phase a subdivision, that you are to provide that phased plan with your preliminary plat. And as he did indicate to you, that we do not have any documents or any plans that show that this 24 acres was going to be a future phase. They may have done it for their constitution, but not through formal city processes. When they come in, in 2019 and 20, we did review a plat for that 24 acres. It actually was brought to you and you approved it. With that plat also provided an emergency access over there on Shakespeare Street. At that time, what they call the Blueberry Farm, a piece of property that we annexed in, had not been annexed in. River Oaks had not come in with their new application. So there was no connection down to 510. But that plat was approved in 2020. We had a petition from the residents that came in, said that they were requesting that emergency access. And at that time, we had also, there was no way to get a full access down to 510. But we had that petition, and it was shown in that plat that you approved. The code requires that after 18 months, you need to bring in your construction drawings. That was not done. That plat expired. And that was what I wanted to bring forward to the record, is that was for 22 lots. We've always had in our comp plan the requirement that if you have a subdivision with 25 lots or more, it requires 2 full accesses. And that has been in our comp plan since I've been here, since the 1980 comp plan. That is why we have looked at this as, when this one came in with 35 lots, it now hit that threshold of 25 lots. And we had to examine how we wanted to handle those 2 full access. The code does say that if you cannot put in 2 full accesses, that city council can grant an adjustment, and you can have 1 full access, but you must provide an emergency access if you can. So we're not looking at that emergency access as the other full access, but it is a safety to have that extra emergency access for this many lots. Again, that plat was expired, and we came in with this one, which is 35, and we've looked at this as a full lot. So to come into compliance with that 2 full access, and at the time when it went before planning and zoning, River Oaks had not gone before you, we had suggested that it be a emergency access until such time that there was full access down at 510, that they could connect down to 510 and end that. Assuming that this way it would keep a lot of the traffic off of Landfair and Memorial and Shakespeare, and they would be able to go south into 510. With what we added into your staff report and updated your motion and your ordinance from River Oaks, that is no longer possible. So full connection down to 510 for Sebastian Highlands and Cross Creek Lake Estates will not occur. That does not mean that they still can't do a full access there, because Landfair is still available. It would put a lot of traffic there, but we all know that that's not what the neighborhood wants and all. So yes, we added it as your option A, but we know that that's probably not what's going to occur here based on your consideration of the River Oaks. Staff still feels that another emergency access is for the safety of those residents in there. It doesn't necessarily mean that the trucks are going to come in. We always looked at it as also a way that residents could get out. If any of those entrances on Power Line Road were flooded, fire, traffic accident where there was a lot of car backup, this other entrance off of Shakespeare gives them another access for emergency vehicles to come in, but also if residents need to get out. It has been designed, engineer designed. Your last page of your preliminary plat does show how that can do. It can be a wrought iron gate, it can be a rope, it could be a wooden fence, a PVC type of fence, and it is regulated. It would be regulated by the HOA. They would have the access, they would have the authority of when they wanted to open it or needed to. Yes, there would have to be a Knox box. Fire department and ambulances would have the right to come in and open that if they needed to come down from Shakespeare. But it's not the city at any time would say that that's when they have to open up. It is not open for full traffic, it's only emergency. And that's why staff felt that the 3 options that we gave you, which the third one would be, to take into consideration some of the information that Mr. Dill offered, if you felt that you would want it to, you would need to, in your motion, state that you grant another adjustment for this addition, and that you would consider this part of the parent parcel, and that they did not need that second emergency access that we're requesting or the second full access. Because the full access is required by our comp plan and in our land development code. So you would have to grant an adjustment for that. With regards to the recreation, that again is not anything new in our code also, but it's in our concurrency regulations. And what it states is that for every 1,000 persons that are going to be part of a subdivision, that developer is required to provide 4 acres of recreation. 2 acres of that has to be neighborhood recreation, and 2 acres of that has to be community recreation. So nothing in the code states that you have to open your private subdivision to the community, but you have to provide half of what you need for your recreation that needs to be available to the community. With the idea being that we can offer a clubhouse in a private subdivision, or we can offer a lake so that you can canoe. But there's still going to be residents in there that are still going to use our other public facilities, our ballparks, and some of our passive parks. And we need to help the growth accommodate that extra use. So the code requires that developer to give some of those, to offer up some additional park and recreation for the extra residents who are going to be coming in. River Oaks has opted to provide those trails around their wetland areas, and they are going to open it to the community, so that took care of their requirement for that. The city is not saying that the private subdivisions have to open up any of their area to the public, but you have to provide that extra recreation. The code also goes into state that if you are going to do the rec and lieu, that you don't want to provide it and you don't have any property outside of your subdivision that you can purchase and give to the city, that you can, at minimum, 1 acre. If you have less than 100 lots, minimum is going to be 1 acre. So the 1 acre isn't that the city is just, but it's what was set up in the code, and that is his minimum, that if they choose not to find any property park around that area or something that can be open to the community, that they can find, it's the appraised value of 1 acre, that we would take that money and put it into a park trust fund to when there is property around that area. And the code does go into that it isn't going to be on the coast. It does have to be in the same recreation area that we receive recreation impact fees. That would have to be spent in that same area. So it's property within the area of that subdivision. So staff has provided in our staff report, and let me just verify there isn't anything else that we wanted to go over real quick. The stormwater system is not going to go into the lake in the parent parcel. It's going to the south. There's a canal owned by the Sebastian River Improvement District, and we have made that one of our requirements or one of our conditions, that they will be involved in the final design and that we get approval from them. We went over to the parks. The applicant is also seeking 2 other adjustments. One is we do have it's a 660 limit on your cul-de-sacs. Their cul-de-sac is longer. And the intent of that is so that, again, fire trucks and emergency vehicles don't have such long to go to get to an emergency if you're the last house on that street. They have provided, if you saw on the east side of their lake, it is their walking trail, but it also is going to be stabilized, that it can be used by emergency vehicles from another cul-de-sac. Staff feels it does meet the intent of the code. We would recommend that you grant that adjustment. There is a requirement for street lighting in a new subdivision. They request an adjustment. They require in their deed restrictions that each property have their own light out by the road that illuminates the road. We're okay with this also. We've also granted that adjustment for the parent parcel, and staff is recommending approval for that adjustment also. And so what we have before you is the resolution. That is also in your packet. That is a draft, and yes, it does include the conditions that staff is recommending, which is that we still require that emergency access onto Shakespeare, strictly an emergency. You would still have to grant the adjustment for the other second full entrance, and that is the recommendation to staff. The resolution does have that. If you do choose one of the other recommendations, the resolution will have to be amended as presented in your packet.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to kick off our city council questions. Did the original Cross Creek provide money in the in lieu of fund for recreational outside of their subdivision?
No, I'll be honest, I don't know that it was enforced in the back, but they have, as they said, they have a 25-acre lake that they definitely had.
I'm talking about outside the subdivision.
No.
No, because the subdivision is closed, so So there wasn't any contribution to the community.
If you remember, a few years ago, we had Treasure Coast Region Plan C, Mr. Lanahan came up to help us. There was some, what was stated in the comp plan and in the land development code was not in compliance with each other. And I think that might have been one of the reasons why it wasn't always enforced. But
Okay.
it was cleaned up, and since that has been cleaned up, that the comp plan and the same verbiage in the land development code, we have applied this to all of the subdivisions that have come in.
Okay, so at the, I wrote down the dates Mr. Deal said, but at the 2004 approval, 2004 to 2005 approval, so we were not asking for in lieu of funds outside the community.
Correct.
Yet. Okay, all right. Now, let me see. When we made the decision on the last approval that we did to put a gate at the end of Shakespeare that was closed in perpetuity, we basically killed the extension of Shakespeare. Now, my question, and it goes along with some of these things, is I tend to believe that sometimes mistakes drive decisions that can cause more problems than they need to cause. And, you know, it would have been great if we could go back in time and have them adjust their plat and say they're going to do this as part of our subdivision. But I don't see any logical reason why the council can't fix that problem now as part of this resolution, and basically adopt your third condition there, that where we, this is, in reality, this is an adjustment, because we're saying that we'll consider the preliminary plat as a phase of the original plat and provide them an adjustment for not having a second permanent entrance, but to have a permanent entrance and an emergency entrance exit out of that subdivision. The thing that's bothered me all along is that we're saying, if we treat this as a separate subdivision, we're saying these 30-some houses in this piece of property have to have two entrances. We're not saying there has to be two entrances in the original Cross Creek. And if we go to Shakespeare, that's not in this new subdivision. That's not in the new subdivision. There's only one entrance and exit in a new subdivision.
Correct.
And so for us to say that because this new subdivision requires two entrances and exits, we want to go back to an already existing subdivision and put in an entrance and an exit. That just doesn't make sense to me. If it's a separate subdivision, it's a separate subdivision. You can't treat it as separate for one thing and not as separate for another, in my opinion. You just can't do that. Now, whether we want to put an emergency exit on Shakespeare or not, I have kind of mixed feelings about personally. There is an emergency exit. The comments in here about making it easier to find is right, because when I drove up Powerline, I had a hard time finding it. And so, but what we would, if we approve the third item on page 63, what we're saying is that they have to make it recognizable and found, and you can find it and so forth.
So, Mr. Dodd, with regards to that, and I did not clarify that, yes, I also had thought the emergency access was closer to their entrance. And so when we did a site visit, we did not see it either. And so that's why we added that version in, that verbiage into that option. However, we were able to go back, and when we pulled out the plats and actually saw where the emergency tract was platted, and we pulled it up on the Google Maps and Street View, it was clear as day. It is down farther than we thought it was. There are signs there that say emergency access. There's a gate there. We wanted to make sure that there was also verbiage that showed that that was the emergency access internally, and you could see from that it was there. So if that is a point of contention, it is, what we saw, we feel that it does already meet that we had put in there, so you don't have to include that in your motion if you don't need to, because it is very visible.
I personally consider Shakespeare as, I don't know, the way Supreme Court would say it, that's already finished law. We don't need to revisit Shakespeare Street, I don't believe. I don't know that we're gaining anything, especially putting an emergency exit and entrance there that the Homeowners Association of Cross Creek maintain and manage. They can choose to open it anytime they choose to open it. And what we have now is traffic flowing into an area that isn't designed to do traffic. And if the city were to make a decision that we were going to make those streets compatible with the amount of traffic that's going to go on there, it's going to cost us a lot of money. I mean, I wouldn't even want to think about having to pay for the right-of-way, let alone build the streets. Because there's a lot of wetlands in there. There's a lot of stuff in there that has to be done with that. So I personally support going with item C, making sure the language is structured correctly to say that it's an adjustment, and that we will consider the existing emergency exit enhanced, however they enhance it, as the second entrance and exit for this. When I drove around there, I got into the subdivision because somebody came in and I followed them in. Don't tell anybody in HOA I did that. But that emergency exit where it's located at the very southern end of that subdivision, if for some reason the original entrance is blocked, you can always drive the other way around the streets and get to it. I mean, it's possible. The only scenario where it could be a real issue is if power line is blocked completely. Now, if power line is blocked closer to Barber Street, then you can get out of one exit and go south. If power line is blocked closer to 510, you can get out of one of those two exits and go north, whichever way you want to go. But I just don't see any sense. I think we've got Shakespeare Street is done law. I'll be interested to hear what the rest of the council members think about that. And so I would recommend that. As far as the recreational fee is concerned, I don't know. I mean, if we consider it as part of the original subdivision for one thing, I guess we have to consider it as part of the original subdivision for everything, which would mean to me that because that was not in effect at the time the original subdivision was platted and approved, that we can't put it into effect for this one. You know, I mean, that's
But you could state, though, that the first subdivision was granted an official adjustment for the entrances.
Okay.
There wasn't an official adjustment or waiver from the recreation on that.
But did it exist? Did that particular part of our code exist, the in lieu of or the outside land?
Yes, it did, but as I say, it was in the verbiage was not the same in the comp plan that was in the. It still required that 4 acres, the recreation fees in lieu, but there was, and I'm sorry I didn't bring it. There was some. Conflicting verbiage, and that's why it was caught when we were doing our comp plan update. We realized that the language was different.
Yeah, but a comp plan update that happens after the fact should not impact something that was done before that. That's just my position. I mean, you don't want to go backward. You have to grandfather stuff. I mean, we would be in a major mess if you didn't grandfather stuff in when you change those things. I mean, I can't imagine every building in Sebastian will have to be redone every other week when we make these changes. Well, maybe not that often, but a lot. So I'd be interested in hearing what the rest of the council has to say. Why don't we start with Bob?
I'm going to take a break. 5 minutes.
Bob is an old guy. He had to go pee.
Huh?
Yeah. You want the doctors know?
You really want to take a break?
No.
5 minutes.
5 minutes?
Yeah, it is
All right.
7:20.
We're gonna pick this back up. We're in recess for 5 minutes. And that is really 5 minutes, please.
That's a picture of my house.
Oh, wow.
Oh, is it? That's your house? Where you live now?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're ready to start again. Cold?
You better go sit down before he gavels you again.
Hey, we have Brian. Hey, Brian. Brian,
You better gavel again.
can you hear me?
No.
No? Is this mic not on?
If you're talking, I don't hear you. I hear that.
Okay. There are many people complaining about being cold. Can we get the AC turned down, or what is it?
We'll turn it up. It's
that?
not really going to do much
It's
good
not gonna do
tonight.
much?
We turned it down because we knew we were going to have a crowd.
Okay.
So we can.
Can you guys hear me out there? Can you hear me? Okay. If for those of you who are cold, Brian says it won't do a whole lot if we turn it down. It'll take too long to catch up.
They can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me? I thought I turned this thing on.
Now I hear you.
Now? Mm-hmm. You hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right, we're going to go to Mr. McPartland and let him have his comments for the staff, or questions or comments for the staff or the applicant.
All right.
Let's settle down, please.
All right. Mr. Dodd, I still couldn't hear you, so I don't know if there's something going on with your microphone. That's a little bit better. So, I mean, I don't want to belabor anything here because we've kind of rehashed a lot of this. I'm kind of, my feeling is I'm in agreement with item C here. You know, I think we kind of really did decide Shakespeare was kind of just set in stone, can't be touched, nothing going in off of there. And I'm in agreement with this C consideration here. And then I'd still like to see a little donation of the land for the community use.
Anyone else?
No, I also agree. I think at this point, based on decisions from way back, 2013 or whatever, and recent decisions, that basically the fate of this subdivision has been signed, and I think the only logical direction to go now is option C. That would be my recommendation.
Okay.
That's what I had already marked down, is option C. That just seems to be the, you know, based on what we've heard from the public back in the fall, based on what the neighborhood already looked like from driving down Shakespeare, that was very obvious to me. My SUV is very small, and I don't even see how a fire truck would be able to make that turn. I understand for exit, but I agree, C. And I too would like to see some donation for recreation.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with all that's been given. I just have one question. If there was an emergency exit put on Shakespeare, and it was closed as an emergency exit in perpetuity like we did the other one, that means the development would not be able to turn that into a entrance, correct?
I'm not sure. We may need some legal guidance on that.
I mean, I know that, you know, something like that could be changed by a future council, but.
I'm guessing that if we could get some guidance from Jennifer, that if that was in your motion, that it would needed to stay as an emergency exit in perpetuity, that it would need a council to change that, not a plat or the HOA.
Okay.
May need guidance from Jennifer on that. If it's not stated in perpetuity as an emergency exit, the HOA would have at any time if they needed to wanted to open that up, that they would just come in with revised construction drawings and make it into a full entrance.
Okay, I think that's important to know, just in case. I mean, if and I'm going to look at Shakespeare as the reason for making my point. If we don't put an emergency exit there on that side now, like Shakespeare, it can never be two lanes. that an emergency exit will never be able to be done in the future if it's not allowed for now. So if Power Line Road was shut down on whole, there would be no exit from this development, and that would be the only reason I would see an emergency exit being needed on the back side. But once again, if it's not done now, then it's a one-lane Shakespeare Road that can never be changed, because most likely there will be a house where that emergency exit would be when this is all said and done.
So I want to remind that the parcel that they call the Blueberry Farm, they have given, through their annexation agreement, they're required to give 25 feet. So Shakespeare Street, the one-way Shakespeare Street, the existing one-way Shakespeare Street can never be two-lane. There isn't enough property.
Right.
Cross Creek Lake Estates in the beginning had offered it. It was denied by city council, turned down. So it's not to say that from Landfair down to Lighthouse that Shakespeare Street can't be improved. But you have, in your previous motion, have put a gate so that there can never be a connection down to 510.
Right.
So it's not to say that the Blueberry Farm may not have, not that they would use that, but you know, the property would be there dedicated to us if we ever wanted to do anything to make that. But it won't be a connection down to 510.
Okay. I mean, like I said, I mostly agree with C. I just was more the concern if we did put an emergency exit. I'm concerned with Power Line Road being shut down and having no way out of that property. And that is a concern, that I do not want a full access back there. And I would do the perpetuity thing like we did with the other one, that it would literally be in the case of emergency. It seems crazy not to give that opportunity if that opportunity is available, but that's my thoughts.
In item C, though, it says that it has to be visible from both sides,
Yeah.
right?
That would be
So-
the current emergency exit.
Right.
On Power Line.
On Power
No,
Line.
I
On
thought it
Power
said on
Line.
Shakespeare too,
Yeah.
no?
No, it's on Power Line.
You're right, you're right.
Has there been any consideration, just to go along with the recreational thing that was talked about? I think we've got some council members that have talked about that being something they're interested in. The recreation funds that would be provided for recreational facilities outside the subdivision have to be used within that recreational zone. Has there been some consideration as to how we could come up with, I mean, you can say the amount of money for 1 acre of land, and I think Mr. Dill made a great point. Are we talking about 1 acre of land on the ocean or 1 acre of land in the Sebastian Highlands? So has there been any consideration, is there anything in the code that would direct us to some clarification on that?
I believe there is some verbiage that talks about, there is a section about termination of fair market value. There's definitely some guidelines in here, and the intent of this is that the acreage would be within that subdivision area. So we wouldn't be taking an acre close to the river for fair market value.
Okay.
And the developer can get an appraisal, the city can get an appraisal. There are some guidelines in the code on how that fair market value for that 1 acre is decided.
So
It
would we
definitely
be
property
talking
in the area.
about 2 lots on Shakespeare or 2 lots inside of this subdivision? Because there's a difference in fair market value between those 2 things.
Right.
And I apologize because we have not, this would be our first taking it through the process of having this recreational land in lieu purchased.
Have we collected that from anybody? Have we collected funds from anybody in
No.
this regard?
No.
So would it be inappropriate for the council to just basically put a dollar amount instead of say 1 acre, the value of 1 acre of land? I'm just trying to come up with some parameter. I don't know how to do that.
I personally, too, would like to see, like, is this something that we can push, this specific item? Do we have to decide this tonight so that we can make sure that the documents that you're questioning, how?
So I think in our, and I don't mean to cut in, but the way our condition of approval is that they would be required to pay this, but it has to be done by the time of final plat. So we're not requiring them to come in next week, or it's not a, they still can get the subdivision constructed. We can still go through that final plat, but before that final plat is recorded, we would collect that recreation fee. And that's how it's kind of the verbiage of that condition. So there's still time to bring it back before, work with staff, work with the city attorney on how that is actually determined and collected.
I was going to ask on the Mayor Dodd's question, if we're not talking about property inside the development anyways,
and it is outside of the development in the recreation area, it would make more sense that it would be essentially 2 lots outside of the development as an appraisal cost, not inside, because obviously we're talking about using it outside of the development. I mean, thinking from a common sense perspective of that, should probably be for an appraisal outside of the development, not inside.
Okay, I have to think about that. All right, it's time for me now to open this up to anyone from the floor who is in favor of this request. Are you in favor? I didn't think all you people came in favor of this request. Okay, no one in the audience is in favor of this request. What request? I'm sorry? What request? Okay, if you would like to come up, we can maybe answer your question. No? Okay. Now, is there anyone, you might warm up if you have to come up. So is there anyone in the audience then who is opposed to this request? Opposed? Okay, come up.
Hello, I'm Colleen Sherry. I live in Cross Creek Lake Estates for about the last 5 years. On a side note, the emergency gate has never been opened. Ever been opened. You probably couldn't drive to it. I don't care about it. I don't care about Shakespeare. That's not why I'm here. So, the 35 lots. Sounds like a little bit, right? We have 130-ish homes where we live, and guess what? If you grant this to Mr. Fisher and Mr. Dill and the developer, they get to keep control of our development, just as they've had for the last eons. We don't get a vote, we don't get a say, because they are the HOA. We have 2 people, they have 3 people. We lose every time. Why am I bringing this up? I think I heard Mr. Dill say we're not opening.
You have to address your remarks to the.
Okay, we're not opening our gates to the public. I'm wondering how we're going to get, let me see, excavators to build the lake, and the sewer pipes in, and all of the trucks for the infrastructure, and the roads, and the asphalt. You want me to keep going? You get my point. I live on the lake. I watch the trucks go by. Our speed limit's 20. Again, don't care because we know they all speed. How are they going to come in and not destroy my peace of mind, my beautiful backyard that looks on the lake? How many years do I have to watch? It's been how many years since they asked for us to approve this? How many years is it going to take for them to actually build it? I'm kind of not caring about the home construction. I live in a new development. What the heck is going to happen to all of us? You're talking 35 homes, 130 homes. Why does one person, granted, he has a lot of pull in the community, he's been here way longer than I've been alive, why is he getting more privilege than I am? It bothers the heck out of me. We just talked about ethics in our last meeting. I get it, he has a really, really big tax base. He gives you guys and us a lot. So how about the land that he needs to give us goes down to 510 and he gets some sort of piece of property that drives through the back of the development into his new addition. The new addition is in our docs. Thanks to our developer, who is our HOA, he's got us all. We can't do anything in our development. We can't get the trees fixed. We can't get the lake maintained. We can't get anything. He wins every time, 3-2. You might not know it. You might not care. I care a lot. I sit in my yard. I look at the lake. There's birds. There's peace and quiet. What am I going to see when I see all this crap going by for years and years and years? I'm begging you, find a different way. I know the people at Shakespeare, they don't want that entrance. I'm saying I'm all for not having it, but we might want a different way out, because I'll be dead if there's a fire on power line. I'll be dead. I can't get out. We're praying someone has a big pickup truck and can plow down the fence. It's okay. I don't want to upset Shakespeare. It's all good. But just consider what you're doing to all of us. We live in a peaceful, gated community. The gates will now be open. We've already had trouble. There's kids in there ripping down signs, threatening us. Ask for the police reports. Please, 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 please rethink this. Don't let him bring his giant trucks. That's all I'm asking. Find another way in. Please, that's all. But thank you. We beat this to death over the years. I appreciate all of you. You know a lot. This woman right here has been my savior, keeping me updated when I ask her. Great employees, we need more like her. But thank you, and I hope we make the right decision. I hope that they don't keep controlling my life till I probably die.
Okay, thank you. Please, no applause back there, please. No applause, sir. Sir, no applause. If you continue to do that, when I ask you not to, I'll have the officer remove you.
All right, I'm getting out of here anyway, because you guys are ridiculous.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay?
That's why we don't have applause.
I'm Diane Spagnolia. I live on Lamfair Ave. I'm here for two reasons. One is we have that resolution R0004 that says that Shakespeare will be one way, Lakeville will be one way, and Ocean Breeze for that one part will be one way. I would like you to say, put it in perpetuity so I don't have to get up here every meeting, because I will be here every meeting. That's one request I have. The other is, I don't think anyone realizes that Lanfair does not go out to a cross, it doesn't. So for you to put an all access would be insane. If you have an emergency exit, it has to be locked so no one can use it, because the same thing will happen. We just had, they were working on Periwinkle and they cut off and did a, detour through. It was hysterical because they had them coming up Lamfair, which you can't take a left, and they were going around in circles trying to figure their way out. It's like, the county didn't understand. We have a great community. We appreciate what you've done for us so far. I just hope that you can take those two things in consideration. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else like to address the council?
Good evening. Paul Jamieson, 603 Yearling Trail in Cross Creek Lake Estates. First of all, I actually like what I heard here tonight. I think people finally have come out and looked things over, whether or not you're going to approve a development. I know it's going to happen, but at least you came out and you looked it over. I want to thank Bob for coming out, spent over an hour and a half with me one day, looked everything over. I want to thank Kelly, especially. Every time I email, she emails me back. I suggest that what you're looking at doing here is maybe not the greatest thing for the neighborhood in general, but if you're gonna pass this, pass it with option C. It's the only one that really makes sense. Those two exits are far enough apart from each other. You're what-ifing everything to death if you think that the whole road's going to be flooded or there's going to be this major fire that's going to, that emergency exit is there for one reason, and it has never been used. And I would venture to say that probably every other subdivision in this city has that same type of emergency gate that's never used. There's really no sense in putting it into a neighborhood that's going to cause nothing but chaos over there. So again, I want to thank you all for, I guess, having a moment, an epiphany or something, but please pass it with option C if you're going to pass this. Thank you.
Anyone else? Let's come forward.
Dr. Jeff Carrier, Landfair. I find myself in an awkward and almost painful position tonight having to agree with Dr. Fisher's attorney. I think he spoke quite eloquently, and I just want to speak in favor of issue C. I think Shakespeare should be retired. I'm going to return my books to the library. I refuse to read any more Shakespeare. I think this should be put to rest. That exit is almost impossible, and I'd like to point out that Powerline, in fact, has the structure, the infrastructure, and with the expansion to 510 that'll come eventually, I think it'll be able to accommodate traffic in a much more efficient manner than Landfair ever could. So I applaud your support so far of option C, and I hope that you'll follow through by voting that in place. And thank you for your time. 188 pages tonight for an agenda. Thank you for reading it. It took me 63 to get to what I was after. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Sir. Anyone else want to address the council on this?
My name is Ron Silverman, 505 Yearling Trail. Just a couple of points I want to make. That emergency gate which you people have, you've seen it.
Would you dress up here, please?
Oh, which you've seen, it's not paved. It's maybe 80 feet off the main road. And if you would be able to drive through it, it's all grass, it's mud, and it slopes down to a retention pond. I would be amazed, especially during the rain we had, if you put a fire truck in there or any of the other cars, they might have to be four-wheel drive to get in and out. So as an emergency, it's got a name. The other thing is, you were talking about recreation. I walk in the back where the 25 acres is, and guess what? They're hunting back there, okay? Right all the way in the back, just before the main, one of the main water drains there, there's a hog trap, wild hog trap, okay? And when I was there, there's bait in there, the door is up. My neighbor went in there and he saw a wild hog who was caught in there. I have pulled arrows out of the ground, probably crossbow arrows. People are hunting there. On occasion, I hear guns going off back there, okay? And I've even seen Fish and Game go back in there. So right now it's being used, it's recreational for who's ever hunting. So I just wanted to mention that. But I will tell you that emergency gate is a gate in name only. And if any heavy equipment ever try to get through there, they'd get bogged down or actually slide into the retention pond, especially if there was a real emergency with 4 or 5 fire engines. So that's what I would like you people to know. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? See none. Okay. I think the only thing that I heard coming in those comments, Mr. Dill, you might want to address this, was a construction entrance. There was question about where the construction traffic is going to come from and how it's going to enter during the construction of this.
Well, we tried to come in Shakespeare. I know the Shakespeare residents don't want to hear that, but there's a specific condition in the resolution before you tonight that says we shall not use Shakespeare for construction. We have to use we don't have a choice. And there's no other, it's a landlocked property. There's no way to get to that property.
Could the emergency, the emergency exit on the power line, could that be enhanced a little bit, maybe stabilized a little bit and be used as a construction entrance? Because that's just
I'm not an
straight
engineer,
shot
but
into that property.
I would say yes, it can be. It's already stabilized, by the way. The gentleman who just spoke didn't realize what's underneath the grass. There's gravel and rocks under there. That is a stabilized entrance to hold fire trucks.
Okay.
It's not going to collapse. You don't need a four-wheel drive. Right. But can that be used? Sure. But if we put that out there, then we're going to have all the residents around that road in here, and they still have to use the other. They'd have to go all the way around to get back to this property. Within it might be worse. I don't know.
Well, I mean, if I look at this map correctly, it appears that emergency exit, which is at the southern end of the already built houses in that area, would go directly into the southern end of the new construction site.
No. No, it wouldn't, no.
No, that's where I thought they should put an emergency exit. I talked to Dory
Okay.
about that, but that's not where it is.
It doesn't? Okay.
No. Yeah, they're right next to each other.
So the emergency is right here.
Yeah, right there. So
Okay,
they'd
it's
have to
there.
go all the way
right.
back
All
around.
right.
and up.
I was looking at the map wrong.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I know construction traffic is an issue, and I understand that. That's just something that was brought up, so.
It is an issue. No matter where you live, it's always an issue. We don't have any control over that. I mean, we wish we had another way in. We don't.
Okay.
We have to be able to develop the property. As Ms. Sherry said, that's been disclosed to the residents in there since 2013. Nothing new about this.
Okay.
There are houses at that southern corner?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, I don't know if they're there or not.
Because maybe they could build those
All right.
last.
Is there someone talking out there? You have to come up to the mic, and we've already actually gone through that part of this process is legal in nature, so we can't really do that. Okay. Did you have something else you want to say, sir?
Along that same point, you raised, my partner just reminded me of the fact that the board of directors has just met, and they are imposing a $1,000 or $1,500 fee on anyone that builds a new home in there. Specifically, these 35 lots will have to pay that fee. And it will be used by the association to repair any damage that's done to the roads as a result of the construction vehicles.
Yeah, that's an HOA issue that we really can't.
I understand that, but I just wanted to make you aware of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's, okay, does the staff, I didn't hear anything for the staff coming from anyone that made comments, that came up. Did you hear anything that you want to comment about?
No.
No?
We
Okay.
just have a final recommendation.
All right.
Sure.
Do you want to make we're ready now for council deliberation unless you'd like, I mean, would you like to say anything other than your
Staff would,
current?
we still stand by our recommendation for option B. We have included that into the resolution. So if you are going to go with another option, and if you do tend to go towards C, your motion should grant any of the adjustments that you're considering, either for the second entrance, recreation, and then we will have to revise that resolution before execution based on the motion that you make.
Okay.
But staff is standing by our recommendation in the staff report for option B.
Okay. I would like to get something from somebody, I don't know who can provide it. How can we put, I mean, I'm not comfortable with saying 1 acre and not having some parameters around that.
And I personally would like to see the comp plan and the original data, just to make sure, because I do agree with you, unless there is something that is solid saying that they were expected to pay for an acre of land or option it, then we can't hold
For the
them to
parent
that.
one?
I mean, what it says right now in the resolution is they will pay for 1 acre, but
Yes.
it isn't very definitive. Is there some language that the city would be comfortable that we can put in there that basically says when you're going to pay for 1 acre, and that'll be determined before this date, and you have an opportunity then to come back for the council or whatever. I'm just uncomfortable putting something that's that nebulous in that document, in that point.
So we can look at revising language and bringing that back to you so it's more clearly defined and finite at a future date. So it's clear.
But that means we got to rehear this thing at a future date, and I really don't want to do that.
I mean,
I'd like to close it out tonight if we can do that.
How the condition reads right now is that a recreational fee in lieu payment for 1 acre of land must be received, and/or an agreement regarding the fee in lieu payment must be executed with the city before final platting of the subdivision can occur. So if it's either going to be
Okay.
the 1 acre, or if they would like to propose some sort of different agreement, this will all have to be worked out before the final platting of the subdivision.
Okay, so the and/or an agreement regarding the fee payment must be executed with the city before final plat. That's an opportunity to finalize that with them, and if the city and they agree, then we're finished. If the city and they disagree, then you have to do something, right?
So, Mr. Mayor, I think basically the code, the way it is stated now, it leaves the option open for you all to allocate a dollar amount if you want to, or we have to go with a fair market value assessment. So we could do a dollar amount agreement with them if that's the route you want to go, or we go with a fair market value of 1 acre within that zone and within that where the subdivision is.
$5 million.
Please, let's don't have any outbursts back there, if you please.
I mean, Mr. Mayor, if you're going against or going for the idea that it's the recreation district that they're in, or the section they're in, then it would make sense that the appraisal would be done in that same district that
Right.
you're referencing. And it just seems like, we could probably come up with a reasonable number to make it work.
Any
Well,
comments?
I
from
would
anyone
say
else?
not just do some arbitrary number, because I don't think that will work out. And the fair market value in that particular area for that size piece of property would be the right way to go if we so choose to go in that direction.
Correct.
Are there any half-acre lots?
Okay, you have any more comments?
No, I agree with you.
Bob, you have any comments?
No, I think we.
No? Anyone
hashed
else?
Yeah.
Okay, then if nobody has any comments, I'm ready for a motion. You want me to do it?
I'm trying to remember all the provisions that we have to put into said motion.
Okay, I'll do it, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds
How's that?
great.
I'm going to move that we approve resolution R23-28, that that we replace section 3B with the language that's contained in option C. That's not actually in the resolution,
No.
that's in their document. But the language that's in option C on page 63 of the agenda packet. That's it.
That's it?
That's it. Any comments?
Don't.
All right,
we
let's
need
have a
to
roll
add-
call, please.
Okay.
Councilmember Nunn,
Yes.
Mayor Dodd,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dixon,
Yes.
Councilmember Jones,
Yes.
and Councilmember McPartlin.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
So then staff is directed to amend the resolution with option C, right?
Yes.
Option C.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Replace section 3B with option C as an amendment to option C.
Thank you.
Okay. And I would ask the staff to figure out a way to be very generous when you come up with this amount, because I know it depends upon where you look around there. An acre, the value of an acre of land can fluctuate by a couple $100,000 pretty easy if you just look at different, so.
We'll go over with the city attorney the verbiage in that section of the code. I do know that it does allow both the city and the developer to get appraisal so it won't just be
All right.
one-sided. We'll come to consensus from different appraisals proper.
Okay.
Okay. All right, now we're on to 14A, which I believe is why a lot of you people are here.
What is 14A?
Okay. And Mr. Benton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So before you all tonight is the consideration of the First Amendment to the city's lease agreement with Krabby Bill's Incorporated. And the original lease agreement was executed on March 19th, 2014, with an expiration date of March 19th, 2024. I have met with Susie and staff from Krabby Bill's. They had presented some petition documents previously. And so based on that and other discussions, my proposal to you all tonight is to extend the lease in order to allow them to continue operating the seafood market. Staff recommends extending the lease term of the seafood market only business operations until June 1st, 2024, and then an additional 60 days to vacate the premises. And effective on June 1st, 2024, business operations at the leased premises must cease.
Okay, before we have council deliberation, I'm going to open up to the public, but before I do that, I'd like to make sure I clarify. We're talking about specifically extending this lease till June the 1st. We're not talking about extending the lease beyond that. For all of you out here who don't know, that building has been basically condemned. It's been condemned for 2 years. And it's an extreme safety hazard. From my opinion, we've been extremely lucky that we haven't had someone hurt in that building because the back part of that building is structurally so unsound that I'm surprised we haven't had timbers falling in the last 2 years in there. And we have an engineering report that delineates that structural weaknesses and the problems with that building. This isn't a problem with Krabby Bill's Fish Market. I'd love Krabby Bill's Fish Market to be open forever. It's a problem with the building. It's a structural issue with that building. And we can't fix that building while they operate in there. And so the city is faced with a very difficult decision. People are upset because they're saying that we are forcing Krabby Bill's out of that. We're closing Krabby Bill's down. We're not closing Krabby Bill's down. We have to have them vacate the building so we can fix it, so we can do what we have to do to make it structurally sound. It's not a safe building right now. And if there's any dereliction of duty, I believe we've been derelict in letting them stay in there this long because that building has been so unsafe for so long. So we're not talking about whether Krabby Bill's will be there beyond June the 1st. That's not an issue for this meeting because we can't do that. So now I'm going to open up to the public. Anyone who wants to come forward and address this to the council, they can.
And Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
it is an old building, but it is not historical building.
That's another good point. That building is not registered on any historical register at all. It is old, but it's not registered on any historical register. Yes, sir.
How you doing, Mr. Mayor?
Good.
I'm Carmine Leonetti. I work at Krabby Bill's. And I'm not a public speaker, so I kind of wrote my thoughts down in a letter form. I'm just going to read it to you. Good evening and many thanks. Sorry. To the Sebastian residents and Krabby Bill's customers who took the time to come here tonight. If you could show your hands or maybe stand up so they could see you guys. The last couple of years, our relationship with the city hasn't been great. I think we both wish it was handled differently. With that being said, we both love this little city, the people in it, the people who live here, who work here, who shop with us. Right now, we don't know what your plans are for 1540 Indian River Drive, our home for the last 13 years. But we are hoping that being on the brink of this little fishing town centennial celebration, you would want to preserve the history and continue honoring the Stan Mayfield Working Waterfront Grant. I think Krabby Bill's should continue operations while council figures out how they're going to address the issues there. And we deserve the chance to stay open, serving our community. We've proven that we're more than capable of handling this project, and our reputation speaks for itself. 13 years ago, we were asked to relocate and be the steward to this fine project, the Stan Mayfield Grant. We took it to heart. Bill knew we would have the finest market in Florida on the eastern seaboard, and I think we've come pretty close to doing that. And you're not going to find another market that does the industry proud like we do. I've been in the retail seafood business for over 30 years, 20 right here in Sebastian. I've been in markets all over Florida and all around the United States, so I know what's out there, and this town does deserve the best. And if for some reason we can't get together and figure out as a team, Sebastian will be losing a shining star, and I know this city would not be better without Krabby Bill's. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come up? Sir.
Hi, my name is Michael Kirshner. Ladies and gentlemen, I work at Krabby Bill's, and I have been in this town my entire life. Met all of you before. You especially, I think I cooked for you. And the restaurant part being down, that's one thing. And I understand your consideration and where you're saying that the building is unsound, unsafe, but you guys haven't helped and cooperated. I can't say you guys. I'm just saying I would have personally done whatever was needed to help with that. But it's been there. I started when I was 15 years old. I worked with Chef Ray Groves. I was there with Jack Harriman when he owned Hurricane Harbor. I mean, we're going back years and years. And it has withstood, time more than you can think. If you need to shut the back part down to work on it, that's understandable. But there's no need for the market to move as well, because that is more structurally sound than anything. However, my point is, this is my family. All of these people, it's my family. And I don't know what else to say aside from, I'm not gonna go into like, oh, we in construction zones and all the loud noise and all that. Don't care. We need to stay in our home, and having to move, and with everything that's going on, the back end of the building itself, maybe, but when the construction crews came in, and I don't know who it was, but started putting all those rocks in, and they started beating up the back deck and all that, then the engineers came in and started looking at everything, and things kind of spiraled out from that. But aside from that, front of the building, fine. The AC has been maintained. Susie, my boss, has done a heck of a job as far as maintaining just the small little things as far as electrical, AC, just the coolers, making sure everything inside the building is running soundly. The structure of the building, because it's leased, I don't know how that operates. I'm just putting my word out there is that I think you should let us stay. And until everything is figured out, just let it go a little longer, please.
All right, thank you. Ma'am.
Today I'm attorneyless, which I'm sure you're all happy about. That was something that I had to
Would
do
you
at the time.
give your name, please, for the record?
Susan Andrews. I'm the president and CEO of Crabby Bills. The serious issues are in the back of the building, which are closed. The market is stable. I want to work with the city and continue my business. If you want to fix the back of the building, I don't see an issue with our being there and staying in operation during that time. We're begging the city for relief in renewing or consider extending our current lease for even longer than what you're voting on today. Just the market. If relief is not given and some alternate options are not implemented, Crabby Bills, an icon in the city of Sebastian, will be forced out of business. I'm not asking for the restaurant. I don't see how you need a new roof. I'm willing to work with you on that. I just want to continue operating my business in the market only. I mean, you know, and if issues are in the restaurant, I don't see why they cannot be repaired while we're still operating. I don't see how we can have to move out to resolve this situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am.
Hello, my name is Alice Tepper Marlin. I live on 116 South Carmel Court. And just want to say that particularly in your centennial year, you have a real treasure here. I grew up on the Jersey Shore. We have a place in East Hampton on the east end of Long Island. We have nothing as wonderful as this fish store is. Not the restaurant part, but the fish store itself, which as far as I understand, without any expertise, without having read the architectural evaluations, the safety evaluations, certainly you need to be sure that the building is safe. But if there is a way to do that, by allowing the market to be open, you will be doing something really important for the people of Sebastian, for the history of Sebastian. It would be a crime to not let this wonderful building, this wonderful business, which has the best seafood anywhere in the country, I think, And it's a wonderful support for the fishermen who come into the dock there. You ought to save it. You ought to figure out a way to be able to let that market continue and keep its many loyal customers who drive a long way to come to this place because it's so special. Keep it there somehow.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Beverly Hipkins, and I'm from Vero Beach. And I've been a long-time customer of Krabby Bill's. First of all, the name Krabby Bill. Second of all, a fish market that once you enter the front doors, you have never seen such an, I'm an interior designer by profession, such a unique interior that is so, I mean, there's nothing like it. And up and down the East Coast. And to destroy such a heritage, and the people who own it and work there are delightful, to say nothing about the fish. You've never seen such a large place like that. Practically the length of the width of the place is a case full of all different kinds of fish. One of them is called Ora, O-R-A, salmon. I defy you to find that anywhere. It's a salmon that comes from, where does the Ora salmon come from? New Zealand. And Scottish salmon's great, but the Ora salmon, it melts in your mouth. It's truly creamy. Pompano. You know, and then it's on the ocean. How valuable could that property be to take away the tradition, the uniqueness that you have in Sebastian? You have other things in Sebastian as far as surfing. It's surfing is like the third best surfing places in the United States. Why not keep this place and work on what needs to be done? Let them keep the market. You're going to be disappointing not only the future of Sebastian as this fish market, but also something that should be a treasure, a top treasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Scott Bayman. I live in Vero Beach. My wife and I have been shopping at Krabby Bill's for 17 years since I retired and we moved to Florida. We make the drive from down almost where the River Club is, for those of you who know that, the Quail Valley River Club, all the way up here to buy the fish because it's the best there is. I would implore the city to do what's necessary to fix what is wrong with the construction on the back part of that, leave the market open. Think about all the fishermen whose livelihoods will be affected if that closes. Think of all the constituents, and it's not just Sebastian, but it's Indian River County that will be disappointed and left out from buying some of the best fish in the country. So I would say that it's a challenge for the council to figure out how to keep this place open. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ron Gaber, and I currently reside in Indian River Shores. Previously, I had lived actually in the Ursuline area, just north of Sebastian, had an office here in the city of Sebastian for a number of years until I retired, but I owned a business here. And I, up until 2 years ago, owned some property here that I've since sold. I also was on the board for a number of years of the Sebastian Area Historical Society, and I'm still an honorary member of that board. So I want to address this from two aspects. One, we also, my wife and I, are very long-term customers of Krabby Bill's, probably since just about the day they started here. but also from a historical standpoint. You've got these fine pictures behind you of older buildings here in Sebastian, and which I assume you're proud of because you put their pictures up. And yet Hurricane Harbor is a part of it. It may not be historically designated, but that doesn't mean it's not of historical importance to the city. And it is. It has an important history to the city. It's a part of it. And I hate to see, we came up here from Miami, where my wife and I are both native-born Floridians. And I hate to see the Miami disease where anything that's old isn't really that important. That history doesn't count. History does count. And it needs to be respected. So I urge this council to do whatever it can, A, to preserve the building, but also to preserve the business that's in it that has done a lot to enhance the building, to enhance the city, is economically very, very helpful to the city, not just for the job people that it employs here, but the people it brings here. I come up here, we don't have a restaurant there anymore because it's been closed. I eat in other restaurants when I come up here. Fishermen come in here, other people, because of this business. It attracts people from all over the county. You're going to lose a very valuable asset if you lose Crappy Bills. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Eric Peters. I'm a Brevard County resident, and I came down here tonight from Melbourne on behalf of Krabby Bills. I'd like to compliment you guys on your centennial celebration, and also just the unique and the desirable working waterfront that you guys have created and maintained along Indian River Drive. And it's here that Krabby Bills has been located and been providing fresh local seafood out of the historic building for many years. As a native Floridian, I love seafood, and especially local seafood. Krabby Bills is known for being the best place to go for the freshest local seafood caught by local fishermen. Now, this is where it gets personal for me. I'm a Brevard County pharmacist. My partner, Christian Matheson, he's an Indian River County sheriff. Together, we have been running a commercial spearfishing business based out of Sebastian. We use Krabby Bills as our outlet to sell our catch of grouper, snapper, lobster, and numerous other fish on a weekly basis. It's critical to us and the people around here, the people operating Krabby Bills, residents, and visitors, and to your city, that we work together on this and allow Krabby Bills to continue their business in the current location. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Roland Ozuski, resident of Sebastian. I just want to say that, the history of the city is that we started as a fishing village. And to have the waterfront there is great, and to have a fish market next to the waterfront, what could be more appropriate and the right thing to do? Even if the building's not considered a historic building, it's an old building, it's a beautiful building, and it should be a historic building, and we should embrace our past and our roots, and we should try to do everything we can to maintain that and keep that. Things like that are special, and you can never replace those. It would be a real shame to not act on that and take advantage of that if we can. If there's a way to figure out, there's a lot of people who give you a lot of opinions, but there's ways to figure out how to fix the building up where you need to and keep the other part of the building open. If you guys could do that, that would be great. It's a treasure. It's one of the things that makes the town such a special place. And the seafood there is second to none, and it would be great if you guys could reconsider and try to find a way to make that work for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Kathy Cheshire, and I live on Indian River Drive. A lot of the things I wrote down to say has already been said. Krabby Bill's holds a special place in my heart. As a matter of fact, when the grant was given, I and a friend of mine, with a few other people, we came in and cleaned up Hurricane Harbor. So I was in there from the start. This building, I know, needs some work, as you said, but it has still stood with so many hurricanes. It's still standing. I'm just pleading with you guys to please, a lot of people's livelihoods are depending on this. Please try to give us another chance. Please, work with us. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nancy Lucasco, and I live in Vero Beach. I drive to Sebastian to purchase my seafood at Krabby Bill's, and I've been doing it for about the last 10 or 11 years. I'm not going to reiterate what everybody has said. I agree with all of the previous speakers, everything from the quality of the seafood to the professional service of the employees. But one thing that I don't think has been mentioned tonight is the iconic nature of the building truly lends itself to what it sounds like you're trying to do on your waterfront. We've heard about the oyster farm, and I know there's a, whatever you call it, professional fish house there or whatever it is. I know the parking is there for it because the signage is up, and I can never park there since I don't fit that bill. But before this all happens and Krabby's gets shut down, why not have a plan for the future that would keep Krabby Bill's building there and let them, even if they did have to vacate, come back into the location? I can't think of a better spot for it, and I would hate to see it disappear from Sebastian altogether, and especially from the waterfront, because that is the perfect location for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is John Denise. I live at 164 Copley Terrace in Sebastian. And I, 40 plus years ago, moved in. I loved the waterfront, but besides coaching, I thought I was going to be a gentleman farmer. So in my spare time, I loved farming. And I live out in, which I hope won't be two parts of the city, but I grew vegetables, I grew fruit, I grew everything. And eventually I grew a lot of palm trees because as I got older and as I got busier coaching and as I got lazy getting older, it became harder for me. So now I'm down to, beside my home, only one lot. And I'm blessed to have 50 great looking palm trees up there, but I'm worried because I come down to the waterfront, probably my wife and I walk the piers and everything. We're probably down here 4 to 6 times a week. I love it. And my fear is that we might have 2 Sebastians because like I ruined part of the growing, I see that Sebastian, if we look at the piers, if we look at the water to be all condos, then what are we going to have? Sebastian water, and then, well, we can't have Sebastian farmland no more because we've given most of that away, sold it away. But I think we need to have traditional Sebastian that attracted us, 40, 50 years ago to come here, and I think that'll attract people. But my fear is if we put it's going to be condos along there, not the business, then, what do we have? 2 Sebastians, an inlet Sebastian and a water Sebastian. I think the community has to be open to everybody. It takes people like me thinking they were going to be able to do something and wound up doing other things, and it takes the beauty of Sebastian is there's just so much of it, and I think we have to be able to keep that. I don't know how many people, to me, that building fascinated me because Savannah, Georgia is one of my wife's and I favorite place, and one of the restaurants we went to is where they used to, the ships would come under there to smuggle things in. That building there was a building that the same thing happened. That back that we're worried about now, the boats would come underneath there, and they were smuggling stuff in there at that time. Well, that's part of the history of the growth of Sebastian, and I think that we have to keep that. And shame on us if we can't make that building, rebuild that building, and keep it going. I think that the intelligence that I'm looking at right now can find people that can sit there and keep that open and keep the building it so that it is safe. I mean, we have to be concerned with our safety, but we can do both. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Hopefully I'm the last one to speak, but I felt impelled to come up. My name is Jill Moeller. I'm a weekly customer of Krabby Bill's. My husband and I retired to Florida a few years ago and bought on the barrier island between Wabasso and Vero Beach. And when we decide where to go shopping each week, we've always come north because we need to go to Krabby Bill's to get the best seafood. But not only do we go to Krabby Bill's, that's why we picked our Walgreens in Sebastian, and that's why we go to Publix in Sebastian and Walmart in Sebastian. We choose not to go south to Vero Beach because they don't have Krabby Bill's. So I think it's an essential part to your economy. And I would encourage you to work with Krabby Bill's to figure out a way to allow their market to stay open even while you're doing renovations of the building. And there are a lot of us who would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello again. My name is Nicolette Mariano, owner and CEO of Treasure Coast Shellfish. In May of 2024, my business will be 4 years old. The past 2 years, Krabby Bill's has been one of the only businesses in town that buys and supports my business. I started this business by myself from scratch after I lost my job during COVID. The amount that Krabby Bill's purchases helps with my overhead, all of my utility bills every year from the amount of just oysters that they purchase from us. Not only that, aquaculture is part of Sebastian and the working waterfront community. I personally feel that I'm like the new kid in town. I feel like there's extra weight on my shoulders for the working waterfront community and aquaculture because there is nobody else out there starting a business on the water. I've been called crazy. I've been called, what are you doing out there? You're not gonna make it. And if it wasn't for Krabby Bill's being on the assembler dock, the other 2 businesses in Indian River aquaculture businesses, I wouldn't be where I am today. Not only that, I have employees that commercially fish and sell to Krabby Bills, and when the fish aren't running, they work out on the farm. So they're working on the water year-round, even when the fish aren't running. I feel very blessed to be a part of this community. I've been very welcomed into the working waterfront community, not only being young and a female. It's very different than from other areas in the United States, especially New England, where my career started out. I'm originally from Martin County. I'm a Floridian. I went to college at Florida Tech in Melbourne, and this is kind of where I ended up and started my business. I've always wanted to start a business on the river to help the community, to help sustain our working waterfront, and to restore the lagoon. If Krabby Bills isn't there, you're taking a good chunk of money out of my business being able to stay afloat moving forward, and you're putting families potentially on that borderline of having to try to find another job in this economy. It would be great if you guys could work out a way to keep the market open. Just the front of the market, when I started, again, doing the farm by myself, trailing a boat up from Stewart, I would walk over there and I'd get a burger, I'd get a fish taco, I'd be soaking wet, I had a towel wrapped around me, I'd order something and I could sit out on the back deck, look at the commercial fishing dock, and never did I think 4 years later I'd still be in business. But I really hope you guys consider being able to keep the market open, to work something out to, fix the back of the building where the restaurant was. And even that back part, I learned a lot just from photos of the historical significance of the working waterfront community in Sebastian and Indian River. And I'm very honored and blessed to be a part of that moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, and it's a pleasure to see your faces. We've moved here, my husband and I, from Atlanta, Georgia. We actually live north of the city.
Could you give your name, please?
Yes, Peggy Akeson.
Okay.
And we moved here about 3 years ago. And I lived in a city, as I said, north of Atlanta, which was Alpharetta. And that's where I feel like you all are the ones that can help us lead this new change, but preserve the authenticity of local entrepreneurship. And I was blessed that we did live in a city that you folks that sat in these same seats up there were very, very passionate about preserving just this. My husband and I we do live in Vero Beach, so we are neighbors to a lot of these folks. And Krabby Bills, we are raving fans, and they are the reason that we come up here. And we do the same thing. We do a lot of shopping, everything up here, because it all starts there, even our Pat. So this is our circle that we drive from Vero Beach to here. You can't expect this woman to be able to manage to close for weeks, not to have income. So you're taking that income away from her. You're taking the income away from the people that work there, and they are family. My husband and I have great respect for them. They work so hard. I'd love for y'all to work in that kitchen and do the business that they do every day. We go and we stand in line. I mean, even for New Year's, I think we're around the 38th person in line early in the morning, because we're all raving fans of who and what they stand for, but also the fishermen. There's so many other connections to this, but you guys are responsible to lead this. And just sitting here and listening to some of the debates, it's how do you lead differently? How do you simplify and help all of us support? You define it as a city. To me, a city should be a community. And when there's community, you support the people that are driving the growth. So Jeff and I are here as, again, raving fans, and we're going to be super skinny because we're up here at least 3 days a week. They can attest. We love them. My husband brings donuts to the gang. So as a woman who just retired after 22 years in the restaurant business, I ask you, each of you to consider how you're going to support this community and let this be the great example. And you guys need to figure this out. There should have been more financial support. And I don't understand how you all let that happen. So if you want to preserve community, you got to stand behind these local folks and business. And as I said, go to Alpharetta, Georgia, because everything that's within that block, it's supporting local investors of people that have built community and all of us that grew up. And that's what's going on here. My niece married a young man from here, and that's the reason we moved down here. And honestly, the growth in Atlanta, Georgia is just over the top, and you guys have got to defend that. Because all the other cities, they're falling apart. I know y'all seen it in the news. I mean, it's just changed. And it's up to you folks to help us lead it, preserve it, and grow the right way. So that's what I'm asking each of you all to do tonight. So I appreciate your time. I know it's late. I thank you for what you do because it's not easy trying to make everybody happy. You have to make the best wise decision, but for me, it's a long-term decision. So I ask you to help preserve that. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am.
How y'all doing? My name is Matson Scott, and I'd have to say Krabby Bill's is probably the only thing that we have left. I look around, I grew up here, I fished here my whole life. I now have a family, I have 2 sons. I used to wade up and down the river, ride my bike. I never got in trouble. I always stuck to fishing. Fishing is my passion. I made a business here. I pressure wash. I drive through this town every single day. We have a tight family here, and that's why we're here as a family, to support Krabby Bill's, because that's all we have left. If you go walk up and down the river, you have all these nice sidewalks. It's a beautiful place. Everybody loves to come down and move here. That's the problem, is everything gets torn down. Archie Smith's got torn down. That used to be a hub of local commercial fishermen that made their living, families, supported all the schools here. We have nothing left. All I can say is if you can find a way to do some restoring, leave Krabby Bill's open, you're gonna make a lot of families happy. And I'll have something that I can still tell my family that this is what we have left. When I grew up here as a kid, Hurricane Harbor, I sat in a seat. I don't know how old I was, but I do remember this. I looked up at the rafters and I said, "Dad, look at that rat running across the rafters." And they all told me to hush, and everybody just was like in awe. I mean, it's just, we all have to have something to look back on. And I'm afraid if you take Krabby Bill's away, that's just another dying thing that we have in this town, which this town was fishermen. And I think it should stay fishermen. And I think you should make more for the fishermen. And thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name's Cody Hume. Hopefully I'll be the last one tonight and quit bothering you guys with all this stuff. I've been a fisherman my whole life. If it wasn't for Krabby Bill's, it wouldn't have been possible for me to raise my kids. They've helped me, been able to sell my fish to them and giving the community an opportunity to have fresh local seafood provided by local fishermen like myself and quite a few other families around here. It would be detrimental in my eyes to take something like that away from this community. I hope you guys can figure out some way to keep it open and keep the fishing village of Sebastian alive.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I know when he said he'd be the last one, you got up.
Yep, I'm going to be the last one. Thank you. My name is David Barney, 1550 Pitland Street, Sebastian. I moved up here in 1973 to Vero, my family did, and then I moved to Sebastian in 81. I've lived here a while. My dad's from Coral Gables. My mom is from Grassy Key in the Florida Keys. I have been eating Florida seafood my entire life. You do not have a better fishmonger in the 3-county area than Krabby Bill's. It's just a fact. What I want to say to you, this is your all's option. I know it's up to you guys. But I recently retired from a local engineering firm. I've seen the engineering report on this building. You can keep that market open and still repair that building. And if anybody has ever deserved that opportunity, it is Krabby Bill's. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else want to address us? All right, council. Let's do some deliberation.
You want me to start, I guess, maybe I'll start. Because I thought we were here about extending the lease for a couple of months to go on. The working waterfront, I don't think is ever going to go away. The problem is the building down there. And maybe it's my fault because when some issues were brought to my attention, I did bring it before the council, and we had several engineering studies done on the building. And some people think you can work in there at the building. I mean, nobody wants it to last more than me. It was a 10-year lease. If you look at who signed off on the lease, it was me who signed off on the lease in 2013. My concern is safety of that building. People say they can operate in there when the market can be open while the building's being worked on. But what happens if the building falls down? That is my concern, because the couple of engineering studies we had, there are major concerns about the building falling down. As far as safety is the big one. I mean, it was a 10-year lease with the city. The city has fulfilled its obligation if you look on the 10-year lease. That building, I don't know how it's lasted this long. I got onto the city council after when the first market moved into there. And there was a large problem because they were running a full-scale restaurant. And then it was made, after that, they left, then it was with Krabby Bill and with Susie coming into the market. But how that building ever passed inspection from the get-go, I have no idea. So my concern is the lease has to end. The building has to be empty. For the city has to decide, what are we going to do? We've had estimates on that building could be $1.5 million. That's what the estimate always starts. I don't know any job that ever started at $1.5 million and it came in back at $1.5 million. It's usually $2 or $3 million more. The city has a lot of projects that are coming on. I don't see, we're not going to get rid of this, the working waterfront, but I do not see how the fish market can exist in there while renovations are made or whatever we do. And so, as far as you look at it, the city has fulfilled their obligation of the 10-year lease. And we have to decide what we're going to do at the end when the tenants are gone. What are we going to do? Are we going to refab the building? Are we going to renovate it? What are we going to do? And so I'm in agreement here with extending the lease to what we said.
Okay, Fred?
Yeah, my biggest concern, and people talk about this, for us, it's about a safety thing. That building is structurally not sound, and I'm surprised something hasn't happened now. I love Krabby Bill's. I would love that to stay there, and all the fishermen and folks that come shopping here, I certainly would love it. But I need to be able to look myself in the mirror if something were to happen in that building, because on my watch, a decision that I made, that building injured somebody or killed somebody. Now I have to live with that decision. This is about safety for me. It is not about the business and keeping the business there or anything else. It's purely a safety issue with that building.
Kelly?
Yeah, I mean, I went to homecoming at Hurricane Harbor. That's where I had my homecoming dinner. And it is a beautiful structure on the river, and it has, I mean, it is our centennial year, and we are trying to preserve the fisherman village that is Sebastian. I was asking Mr. Benton today about, inspections and, when the city purchased the building, what did the report say back then and how did it deteriorate so fast? And, there's a lot of questions to be answered. I would love to see us, obviously fulfill the 6 months, but, potentially look into if as we do inspections and have companies come in, see if it is possible at all to leave the market open as they are, looking to see what we can do with the building. I would love to, at the very least, be able to maintain the front half of the building if we have to, do something with the back half, which is what we keep hearing is the worst part of it. But I would like to keep our options open. I don't want to just say 6 months and done.
Please,
I don't.
please. No applause, please. I like what she says too, but we don't do that here. Thank you. Chris?
So, there's no punishment here. I know the result of what we're talking about feels punishing and it feels negative. I get it. There's negative consequences that come from this agenda item. It comes from a lease ending. The building's an old building, yes, but it started out an automotive garage. It wasn't a fishing building when the building started out. It has been for the last 13 years. Yes, agreed. It's part of the working waterfront. It'll always be part of the working waterfront. I'll clear this up now. That building and the property it sits on will never be condos. We own that property for a reason, to keep the view of the river, to keep control of that. I'm hearing people out, not just here, but outside saying, oh, well, the city just wants to give it to developers. That's not even something we've even talked about, thought about. We own that property. It's tied to the Stan Mayfield Working Waterfront, to the docks. It can't be sold off. So that's not something that's ever going to happen. Now, the building, the roof has to be replaced. And that roof, if you've noticed, is what 12 inches of foam that's attached to every bit of wood that's there, which means in order to take the roof off the building, you have to take everything off the top of the building. There's no way to keep a fish market open with the roof pulled off. It's just not a possibility. It's not something that can happen. The roof has to be replaced. Personally, I would have never put foam on that roof, but that was made a long, long time before us and this decision. We can't make today's decision based on feelings. And trust me, ate at Krabby Bill's all the time before all of this. And it's not a matter of what an amazing fish market is, because it is an amazing fish market. It was an amazing restaurant when they were open. It had some of the best food here, no argument. But this decision is about safety. And people say, well, what are you, trying to be a fortune teller? Well, our job is to be fortune tellers. Our job is to look at the future and what the future can be. We look at future budgets, what possibly could happen. We look at future costs. Well, we have to look at the safety issue, and we have to put that foremost in our decision-making for this process. Because if the building did fall down, then we would be held liable. And honestly, if we made the decision to leave it open and it happened, we're all going to be personally sued on this too. So we have to be fortune tellers here, and we have to say the engineers have all said the building's unsafe, that it should be closed. It has been condemned already. Yes, hopefully the front of the building can stay there when we make a decision, whatever we decide to do, but that'll be up to architects and engineers to make that decision, not us. So I'm sorry. I know it's not news people want to hear, but I am forgiving them till the end of June, or till the June date, and extending the lease. But I don't see a possibility of extending it further just because of the safety issue.
Thank you. Okay. I don't find Krabby Bill's synonymous with the building. You drive from Vero to Krabby Bill's. You don't drive from Vero to Hurricane Harbor. Okay? And this is almost like a deja vu thing for me, because I remember 18 months or so ago having these exact same conversations when we got that structural engineers report and we had to close the back of the building. I think it was 24 months ago now, maybe, when it happened. But having these same exact conversations as a council, somewhat in some regard. And then I remember having many, many, many private conversations with our city manager at the time, in which I made many proposals to him about ways that we could do what we had to do with that building and keep Krabby Bill's open. I offered to go to the county commission, and as much as I'm happy to see Five Guys moved in, I was willing to go to the county commission and try to get the county commission to give that space to Krabby Bill's to operate their fish market out of while we did that building. We talked about the possibility. I saw at a show I was in, I saw a 60-foot trailer that was turned into a deli on the inside. You walk in, walk down the line, there was a whole deli set up. You bought your stuff, you walked out the back after you paid for it. I talked to the city manager about the possibility of doing some of that stuff. I was not involved in the conversations he had with the owners of Krabby Bill's, but the next thing we found was an attorney going to sue us. I'm just trying to let everybody understand what's happened in this process, okay? If there was anything that the city could have done 2 years ago to keep that fish market open outside that business, I was willing to do that, and I think the council would have done it. But we ended up with an attorney threatening to sue us over those conversations. It was disheartening to me when I heard that. I would still be willing, if there was anything that the city could do to keep that fish market open, I would still be willing to try to work through that process. Even if it meant the city coming up with some financial support for that, I would still be willing to do that. But you have to look at the fact that Krabby Bill's is not synonymous with the building. Everybody who came up tonight and said they come here to buy fish at Krabby Billy's, not a single one of them said they come to Hurricane Harbor to buy fish. They come to Krabby Bill's to buy fish. And if Krabby Bill's was across the street, or if Krabby Bill's was where the Five Guys hamburger place is going to be, or if Krabby Bill's was in someplace down along, I don't know, 512, they would still come to Krabby Bill's to buy their seafood. Because it is, quite frankly, the best seafood in the Treasure Coast. And when the restaurant was open, it was the best fish sandwich you could ever have, among other things that were there, okay? So I would be willing to do anything that we can do to support keeping that open. I would be interested in Mr. Benton possibly having conversations with the owners of Krabby Bill's about what the city can do. I'm not necessarily willing to spend a gigantic amount of money because it is a business and the business has to operate on its own. I don't believe that governments should make the decision as who is the winner and the loser in the business world. But governments can make a decision to help somebody who is in a situation that they didn't necessarily create for themselves. And Krabby Bill's did not create this problem. They moved in there, they've done everything they said they were going to do under that lease. They've operated the best fish market in the area under that lease. It's just that there was something that was totally outside their control and outside the control of the city. We probably, with the conversations that I've heard, we most likely should have done more due diligence when we bought that building, but quite frankly, it was either buy it at that time or find a house built there. Because anybody else that bought it would tear it down and put a house on it, put a house there. So we purchased it at the time that we were doing the working waterfront because we had an opportunity to do it and protect that property when we did that. So, I mean, this isn't a closed issue on Krabby Bill's unless the people who own Krabby Bill's want to make it a closed issue. Not from my perspective, it's not a closed issue. They have to be reasonable, they have to come and have a conversation with Mr. Benton, and we have to have a conversation as a council, but it's not a closed issue on Krabby Bill's. There are places in this town where Krabby Bill's could operate starting tomorrow, except they have to move their fish, and they have to move their freezers and their coolers, but they could operate tomorrow. They don't have to be in that building. That building is a safety risk. I am absolutely happy and ecstatic that we haven't had an accident in there and had somebody hurt in that building. We're past that, ma'am. I can't open it up for you to comment. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't. So, once again, I'm more than willing and I probably would find 4 or 5 other people up here that would be willing to do what we can do that's reasonable to assist Krabby Bill's to stay in business. I don't want them to close. I just don't want somebody hurt in that building And then the city have to worry about where the state puts our sovereign immunity limits on how much they're going to bankrupt us. And that's a possibility. And the engineering report was specific on that. No, I'm sorry, we can't. So that's what I'm saying. I'm giving an invitation, quite frankly. Mr. Benton's probably about ready to throw something at me, but I'm giving an invitation. Would be more than willing, and I think other council members would be more than willing to assist Krabby Bill's to stay in business, but not in that building. We have to discontinue people being in there, and then we have to go through the process. It's going to take us 12 to 18 months to come up with what we're going to do with that building, because we have to please everybody. We're going to have more public hearings and public workshops, and we can't just do something with the building. It's not that easy. So it's going to take us 18 months to do that. It's not a simple thing to do that on what we want to do with it. So there's an invitation out there. If they're interested in staying open and they're interested in staying open in Sebastian, come to Mr. Benton and talk to him. All right? That's my spiel. I'm interested in a motion.
I would like to make a motion to approve the amendment lease so that we can at least keep them there until June 1st through the rest of the season. Second.
You have a motion and a second. Any conversation on that? Let's do a voice vote, please. Or roll call. I'm sorry, roll call.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dixon?
No.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartland?
Yes.
And Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. We're on to 14B. And if the people who are here for Krabby Bill's want to leave, I'll take about a 2-minute pause on what we're doing so you can do that.
There you go. 2 minutes?
It's 9:02.
We'll be right back.
We're at 5-minute recess. We're on item 14B. Mr. Minton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this item is requesting approval for utilizing a piggyback method for an emergency purchase of an F-150 marked patrol vehicle in the amount of $52,327. This is an unbudgeted purchase. There was an incident with an existing vehicle. Insurance coverage deemed it as being totaled, so we got insurance settlement of $14,768, and we're looking to utilize our R&R renewal and replacement account to complete this purchase so that we can get this vehicle back in service for our police department. And Chief Acosta is here if you have any questions.
Okay, council, do you have any questions or?
Mayor Dodd, I move approval of the emergency purchase of the Ford F-150.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any comments? Let's have a roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
And Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, 14C, which is the approval of the Lagoon Walk.
Man, I'm getting confused here now.
What we discussed in the.
What we discussed in the meeting for the okay, I feel like we've had this conversation this evening, so.
Yes.
Mr. Benton.
Thank you, sir. So as previously mentioned, this was a recommendation from the CRA board to City Council in regards to the design of our Lagoon Walk kiosk, and staff recommends approval of the design and action to go forward.
Council, what's your pleasure on this?
I move approval.
I was second.
We have a motion and a second. This is for the purchase, therefore we have, is it?
Mayor.
Yes, sir. I was just happened to be eating at the time as I spoke, so sorry.
Mayor, I just want to confirm this is not for the purchase.
No,
this is
it's
just
for the
strictly for the design.
Right, but I was just looking to see if it involves spending money, so we have to take a roll call.
No, not at this time.
No, it doesn't? Okay, then we can do this by voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Number D.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this item also was before the CRA board tonight. It is to provide clarification, as Alex had spoke about earlier, is for the permitting, design, and engineering services for the working waterfront expansion to create additional dock space for commercial fishing vessels and also potential future clam and oyster aquaculture farms, which I failed to mention earlier, and I apologize for that. So this will utilize a fund grant and also utilize CRA monies in the amount totaling $120,000. And Coastal Wide LLC is still here at this hour if you all have any questions of them.
Okay, council, what's your pleasure on this?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right. Any other comments on this?
Mayor Dodd?
Yes, sir.
Just one question. When we talk about the upland improvements, what are they talking about as far as that? Because I want to know, I'd like to get a picture of what we're talking about. When we expand it, the docks go out, what are we doing on the backside of that?
So I have full-blown kind of conceptual drawings that I can have you review in the office. As far as, we're talking about looking at reconfiguring the way the docks are currently positioned and maybe changing that around so you can put some more in and just making it flow better. So, and also looking at some other things.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Yes, looking forward to it.
Okay.
Do you have anything else?
No, sir.
All right, let's have a roll call, please.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dixon?
Yes.
And Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember Jones.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's late.
Okay, Fred, have you finished your dinner?
I did. I have a little energy. I'm sorry. I got some sugar or something in me.
Okay, we're on to item 14E. Council, I've had some issues the last couple of years with the Budget Advisory Committee process. I just haven't felt that they either didn't get the information they needed or they haven't been able to really get the stuff they need. And I think I'd like to kind of to focus a little bit on the fact that we're talking about on July 11th and 12th, having city council budget workshops in which the department heads actually come in and with the city manager. This is the first time in a long time, I don't think ever, maybe, that I can remember, that the council has actually had an opportunity to sit down and talk with each department head about their budget items. I would like to discuss the possibility of trying to put together a better charter for the Budget Advisory Committee that better delineates what we would expect from them. I think when this committee was created years ago, it was because the council members felt like that they wanted a more detailed evaluation of the budget, but they weren't doing that, and they wanted to get somebody together to do that. In watching these meetings the last couple of years, I really haven't seen much of a detailed dig into the budget. I mean, the only thing that's ever questioned is the golf course. You know, how much we're spending money at the golf course kind of thing. I haven't really seen much of a detailed dig into the budget process. And if, in reality, the Budget Advisory Committee is really doing nothing but listening to reports from the staff and not getting involved very much in the details of the budget, then I don't know that we really need another entity that the staff has to spend time dealing with, especially, and I would not have brought this up, except that Mr. Benton is going to bring his department heads in and let the council have workshops to discuss budgeting with those people. And I think that's what we would have expected the Budget Review Committee to do. Mm-hmm. So I would like to talk about maybe sometime between now and our next meeting, which is February the 12th, provide some information to Mr. Benton for the council on what we would like to see the advisory board do for us in the budgeting process, and maybe then have a redevelopment of the charter, what we expect them to do, and approve that at that meeting on the 12th. I just don't know what it is that they can do that we can't do in our workshops with the department heads. So, Mr. Benton, would you like to comment?
Yeah, I just have one concern with, the date you mentioned was February 12th, but our next meeting is February 14th.
Well, okay, 14th's better because their meeting's on the 10th. Or their meeting, okay,
their meeting's
that's the Budget
12th.
Advisory Board meets to the 12th, on the 12th, yeah.
However, I'm just going to be honest, I don't think I can meet the timeline for the 14th because our agenda transmittals are due Monday at noon. And between now and Monday, and then I'm also in Tallahassee Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday
that's
next
right.
week.
You're going,
so I think that's a little bit of a tight timeline for me. So maybe the second meeting in February, we can bring it back.
Well, Mr. Kilgore, what do you think about the whole topic with the Budget Advisory Review Board and so forth? I know you're trying to get out of here and we won't let you go.
Well, I'm probably responsible for the reason they look at things in a summary form because I think I've built confidence in our work and our putting together a budget that is not full of, we don't try to slip things in or hide them. We try to disclose it in the document. So when it comes to the public meetings, and I hope you guys would find the same comfort level, there's no need to talk about how many staplers or, even how many computers a department is buying. You trust in them to produce
Do you find value?
Results.
Do you find value in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 meetings that you have to attend with the advisory board, with the Budget Advisory Board?
Honestly, no.
Okay, that's what I was trying to get at. Okay, so maybe the better approach is that we talk about sunsetting that board. Yes.
One of the people that I had assigned to the board, and his comment to me was, well, I don't really feel like we're involved in the budget. We kind of just look what you spent for the last quarter. And that's really all we do is review what you spent already. I feel like we should be more involved in the process And I don't know how we do that, but that was a comment to me related to the advisory board.
Yeah, that's interesting. It sounds like including them in the process, while I understand their desire to, it would almost be like too many cooks in the kitchen. Like, how would they know what staff truly needs? So, yeah, that seems like a very challenging situation to make happen. But I understand their desire to want to understand and be a part of it.
Yeah, I listen to those boards, and I think the first thing I think of is if now we take this away and take that board away, I would prefer to have those people from outside of us to take a look at that and to see, because I've watched some of it before, and things have come up, and they've actually helped Ken on a couple of things periodically, but I'd still like to have those other eyes on it. That's just my opinion from a public perspective, like looking in, going, what are we trying to do? We need to have people to have another set of eyes on things, and there's nothing wrong with that. We can define the parameters of where they, what we expect for them to do during that period, but to do away with them, I honestly couldn't support that. I think we need that oversight.
I could see maybe tailoring down the amount of meetings perhaps, but I don't think it's good faith in saying no.
Okay. Bob, do you have anything you want to say?
You know, there's a lot of valuable members that are on that budget review committee. I kind of do, you know, it's not like they're really driving, but they do question some of the things that are going on there to see. I also see in this timeline you're talking about, and I was always wondering why we never did, the 2 city council budget workshops at 9 in the morning, going through similar to like the county does or Vero Beach does. And I think we have grown large enough where we really do need to sit down for but would you think it would take 2 days?
So we allocated 2 days for the simple fact that it's going to be the first time that we go through this. So without really kind of knowing exactly how much time we're going to spend with each department head, we'll allocate a lump set of time, an hour, hour and a half for each department. May only take 30 minutes. We'll learn going forward. But I felt like allocating 2 days gave us substantial time to separate our departments, go through the CIP, go through projects, and and if there's anything you want to go in and operating, we have those discussions.
Right. And also, you know, because to give it the time that it's needed, because I've been down to the county where they just breeze right through, but this gives you the time to sit down in depth and go step by step. And I think it's important to know that for each department, because I know all the departments have the needs, you know, and if they can specify them. So I like that. I think the budget review committees could be cut down a little bit.
Okay.
But I do like their sense of oversight, because, you know,
Agreed.
not necessarily, I mean, I've been through budgets so many years, but some of us may not have a strong budget type background. Or like you're the land zoning guy on the board here, you know, and I kind of defer to you on a lot of that. But there's a lot of people on the budget review that I do, you know, respect their guidance and diligence looking through the budget.
Okay, this is an agenda item, so I can open this up to the public for comments. And there's only one guy there, and he stood up and wanted to comment, so.
There's only one public comment.
I think it's on. Try it.
My name is Terry McGinn, and I'm on the Budget Advisory Board. And I agree with some of what Mayor Dodd said. I agree that we need to stop the preoccupation with the golf course. And that comes from a couple of people. But I also think it's very important, and Ken is a rock star, so basically he brings in a good presentation. But there are some members of the board, including myself, that do spend a lot of time in the detail that we're given, and some don't. And I know some don't. Some are on their cell phone while we're having the meeting. But I think it would be really a sin to do away with it, but change the process.
Okay.
And I think if you're going to have a workshop, it might not be a bad idea to invite some of the advisory board members to the workshop. They may add something to the process.
Okay.
But I wouldn't get rid of it because it's oversight.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Given these comments, and I'll make a motion that we approve the budget calendar for preparation of the 24-25 budget.
Second. Third.
You beat him to it.
Okay.
Fourth. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments?
I'm glad I'm going to
No,
London.
we're running so long tonight, they're having to change out the microphones.
I know, right?
Okay, we're getting close, guys.
Mayor, can I just get some clarification?
Yes, sir.
Are you still looking for me to bring back
No.
parameters? Okay,
No,
perfect.
no, I passed all that, okay? I brought it up and I got good input to make me think I shouldn't have brought it up, so, okay.
Is part of this
All in
motion,
favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
was part of this motion to deny retirement for Ken?
I tried that.
That was
I mean,
part of my.
I tried to deny retirement for him, and I tried to refuse to take Ruth's resignation from the Natural Resources Board, and neither one of them work.
That was a part of the reason why
Yeah.
we needed to keep
All right,
it.
city attorney matters.
Nothing else from me.
City manager matters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm going to try to be quick, but we got to keep an eye on the clock because it's getting
Okay,
close to 9:30.
before you start this, just to make sure we're okay, I move that we extend the meeting to 10 o'clock.
Second.
Doesn't mean we have to go till 10, but.
Oh, okay. As long as we don't have to go, I'm good with that, all right?
Aye, all right, now you're okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I have one item, it's a request. Mr. Blankenship, as you all are aware, you all have met him. He came on board last Tuesday. We have had discussions in regards to the Riverview Park Master Plan. And that is an item that, in working with Mr. Blankenship and Community Development as well, Ms. Bernard, we're going to work with a consultant to have some public meetings on the Riverview Park Master Plan and allow, formulation of that plan and go through the full details. However, Mr. Blankenship brought it to my attention on Monday that, in speaking with some of his constituents, there is a grant opportunity from the federal government, Land and Water Conservation grant opportunity, that is in the amount of up to $1.5 million. The deadline for the grant application is January 31st. So, short timeline. However, Mr. Blankenship has already started working on the application. We're working to finalize some documents. So what I'm asking from you all tonight is to provide me with some approval for us to submit the application. We will go through the formal process as we're going in February, come back to you all with the application and formalize it with a resolution and such. And at that time, if you all don't agree with it, we can always pull the application and not have to go forward. However, if we don't apply by January 31st, there's no chance to get any funds. So that's where our kind of push for an expedient.
Is there a consensus that we should apply?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
I heard 5 absolutelys.
Perfect. That's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Blankenship.
City clerk matters.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
One of these nights, you're going to say something.
She might.
Okay. I do have one thing. It's real quick. This last weekend, we had our very first Centennial booth operational at the Fine Art and Music Festival, and it was a blooming success. So we actually went through commemorative challenge coins faster than we could replace them in the morning. We had to send people to get more for them. So it was a really good event. Okay, now Councilmember McCartland.
Nothing.
Mayor Jones, Councilmember Jones.
Zip, none, nada.
I didn't need to do that motion. Okay, Councilmember Nunn.
Nothing.
Vice Mayor Dixon.
The art festival was wonderful.
Was.
And that is all.
All right. In that case, if there's nothing else for the good of the order, we are adjourned.